comments. Please join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It has my turn. Just sneaking it. Good. Okay. We'll start off with public comments. Is there anyone in the fiscal audience who would like to say anything that's not asterisked on the agenda today? All right. How about in the Zoom audience? Okay. Our first agenda item is outdoor assembly permits, the Snapper Derby. And that is, oh, yes. Oh, public comment? Oh, okay, come on up.
3 questions.
Maybe you could just identify yourself. Yeah.
Oh, Angela, how are you guys doing today?
Good, yeah.
To be outside at the beach, it's such a lovely day. So I have a question about the pyramid law. And I wasn't quite sure how the formula is calculated, and when I inquired over at the building department, they're kind of, this is new to them and they weren't sure themselves. What I'm concerned about, first of all, is there any back testing done to see how many houses are gonna be coming non-conforming because of that? And if so, what was the number of that? And how many houses are gonna be another layer of non-conformity, like Heights houses already all non-conforming, is this gonna add another layer on top of that? And how is that gonna affect the community and land values? Has anybody done any back testing there on the town board?
I can't remember. What? Yeah, I was gonna say.
I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember if you counted the non-conformity created.
I did. So I did the nonconformity created on one of the tax maps, just for here in the center. And it created 70% nonconformity off the bat.
Correct. So what was the reason for the pyramid law? Who was it to help and who's it to hurt, and why was it even passed?
It was part of the community input on wanting to limit house sizes and like houses on a lot towering over their neighboring properties. Bowditch Road was an example of.
So you have one house and the whole rest of the population, land values get decreased because of it or become non-conforming because of it?
It wasn't based on one house. Over the years, we've heard many complaints and
Okay, so what do I
concerns.
tell a landowner that has waterfront property and the house site sits at a 33-foot elevation that goes down to sea level at 0? What now becomes the mean average height limit of that property? Does it become 15 feet? What is now the height limit for that person? I don't understand the math. I don't understand how it's calculated.
there was some discussion of how that was calculated. I remember a diagram. I don't have it handy to bring it up.
Is it something you could email me?
Yes, I will try and find it and send it.
Based upon natural average grade of the property, and that,
So we
let me just
haven't-
finish, let me just
well,
finish, let me just finish, thank you. Natural average grade, and that determination is typically made by an architect or an engineer working with a surveyor, going over the topography. Now, other municipalities on the east end have pyramid laws, and that's what they do. And so, it's part of the application process for like a variance, say if you need a variance for pyramid relief. They're required to create the pyramid and show where is their encroachment into the pyramid by either the proposed dwelling or the existing dwelling. And again, it's taken by natural average grade. Now, so that is a question for the building department and or the owner's agent. And it's a case-by-case determination based on the natural average grade.
Okay, so, but if I showed you a topography map of a lot that's 1.5 acres that starts at 33 feet and goes down to sea level 0, what becomes the average grade? Where's the formula?
Architect or an engineer will determine that, working with their surveyor based on the natural average grade. I can't answer the hypothetical for you here.
But when you
Based-
built the law, what were you thinking is natural grade, natural average grade? And is it a weighted natural average grade? Like a lot could be 33 feet elevation and only a third of the lot's 33, and then it drops down radically to maybe 5 feet, so maybe 70% is 5 feet elevation. Where's the formula?
There's no formula, just like every other East End town doesn't have an exact formula. They use the expertise of engineers and architects and surveyors.
The law is so
to
open-ended,
determine
it's
that.
hard to determine if somebody wants to buy a piece of land on Shelter Island, how do they determine what they could build on the property?
But what you're talking about is an exception, a crazy exception.
No, it's
So,
not.
Yes, it is.
No, because Shelter
And,
Island isn't a flat
okay,
surface.
all right. No,
Shelter
I
Island's not a
understand
flat
that.
surface.
But-
Shelter Island, the topography is,
And that's why you would need,
It's very
that's why you would need the assistance and the expertise of people that do it for a living. The East End surveyors, architects, and engineers are schooled in this. They know how to
But you have a law
calculate.
that makes no sense to the average person.
Generally speaking, if it's a lot that, is, you have the grade here from the road, and then it's up 10 feet, then comes back down, and then maybe a little dip here.
Very
you
few
do the
Shelter
average.
Island lots are flat. Most of them have kettle holes, most of them are cliffs, like in the Heights or Ham Island, parts of Gardner's Bay Drive or Hay Beach. You have maybe in the center of the most flattest lots on the island, but the rest of the island is not flat, and a lot of the lots go down to sea level, go down to zero.
Okay, listen,
So you basically created a law that's gonna be a hardship for just
there
about
was,
everybody.
how many work sessions were there, Meg?
There were 3.
No, and how many times was it discussed?
I have,
She has a number.
In concert with proportionality.
No,
because-
how many times was pyramid brought up?
So we opened the discussion on February 27th, and then March 12th, we discussed it some more, and then I made arguments on the 19th and the 26th of March. And then April 9th, it came up along with proportionality, same in April 16th, and 23rd, and May 7th.
Okay. And then there was a public hearing, and it
That
was
was
noticed in the paper. So I'm just curious why you didn't bring these questions.
Well,
To the board, because, again-
unfortunately, when the hearing was, this is the busiest time of year for people on Shelter
You-
Island.
you could
trying to
zoom in.
make a living.
You could zoom in, it's at night.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, you're raising
I used to
valid
know this,
points.
But you know what?
You're raising
I'm not-
valid points.
I'm not the only one standing here right now. There's about 500 people behind me that you don't see, okay? You hear what I'm saying?
No,
That are totally against this law. They find it very arduous. They find it, you basically are taking away the rights of the property owners again, okay?
they could seek a variance.
Oh, isn't that so
I think
crazy?
that
I think, can I just make one small suggestion? Could you maybe review this again and possibly repeal it? Because I'm not the only one standing here right now, okay? I have a good 500 people behind me that think this is the most craziest thing they ever heard of in their life. Especially, you don't have, Shelter Island is not an airport. The lots are not all flat. So many houses that are already built now, that are on the verge of being renovated or torn down, are now gonna be non-conforming. It's gonna be a battle with the ZBA, trying to get a variance. Well, for what? What are you gaining here? And if a house is ugly to the neighbor, then maybe put in the code, plant trees or something around it so they don't see the house. Which makes such a sweeping law that affects so many people. All I ask is you review it again, because I'm not the only one standing here right now. I just want to let you know that. Now, I have another question. Stephen brought up, he's in favor of involuntary melding. Now, Amber, you were on the board when that whole law was repealed.
yeah, and we have that coming up for discussion later on the agenda.
Okay, so let me just put my 2 cents in now.
We don't,
There'll be a public
yeah,
hearing.
there'll be a public hearing where we bring in public comment.
Okay,
But if you want
understand
to,
the ramifications of that.
yeah, we're going to
Lori
discuss it.
Raymond brought that up
We're going
years
to,
ago. Okay.
yeah, we're going to discuss it
It's
today.
just in case I can't make the next hearing, then next thing I hear it's law again. And then the third
You
thing.
could also email and send in your, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
well, I have emailed, and usually the replies are not too helpful. And then the third thing I just wanted to bring up is maybe in the future, now that we're going into winter time, could the town board review the rental codes? Because you are blocking out families from seeing their relations on Shelter Island. And you go, how is this possible? People cannot afford to bring their families. Say you have a 5-generation family living on Shelter Island, and their kids are now in North Carolina, California, Canada, Europe. They want to come to Shelter Island and visit their families. They can't pay $1,000 a night for a hotel room for 8 kids or 5 adults or whatever. They like to rent a house on Shelter Island, but they can't stay here for 2 weeks. They can stay here for a week. Can you please change the law and at least go back to a week rental? So a family that has ties to Shelter Island, or maybe someone that just can't afford to take 2 weeks off from work, can actually come and visit the place and not have to spend a fortune to do so? So could you please look into that again?
Just one clarification on that, is the law is that you get one rental period in 2 weeks. You can rent for the entire 2 weeks, or you can rent for
Right,
one
I
day.
understand that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in the real world. That's fantasy, that someone's gonna rent their house for a week or less, get the rental permit, and then not wanna rent again for 2 more weeks. That's,
And also you can't advertise. You can advertise for one.
If you could come up just to explain that. Sorry.
Well, the law says that you cannot advertise.
Were you done, Angela, before?
well, no, I did not say, when the dust settles and you don't have too much work on your desk, maybe by next season, you could just change that one chapter in the code to make it 1 week rentals are allowed without needing a special permit and without the homeowner losing their right to be able to rent the following week to another nice family that has ties to Shelter Island for 5 generations that now can't afford to come visit because they have to stay here for 2 weeks. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I didn't really want to speak, so, but the two things there, Elizabeth Galley, 2 questions off of his comments. The first question is, are the 75 houses, there's 75% of the houses that now are non-conforming in the height restriction, is there a grandfathering in that?
Now they would be considered pre-existing non-conforming. So it's any changes they wanted to make, that would be in.
It can stay the same height.
area. They can stay the same height.
Okay.
But if
So
there's
that was
any
just-
change, then.
So then it's that 75% that's non-conforming, if they wanted to rebuild like in kind, they could rebuild in like in kind.
Stay in the same.
So that they wouldn't need a variance to do that, right?
If it's the exact same thing, otherwise they have to go to the ZBA for an area variance.
So that seems like if 75% of the houses on Shelter Island are non-conforming, that seems like a big undertaking for our volunteer boards.
Was that
Just
Yeah,
as a
just-
nation.
It's 70% in just the center, in just this one tax map. That encompasses the B1 and the C zone around it.
Okay, sorry.
So it's 70, in just that one tax, I didn't have the time to go through every tax map and literally measure the distance from property lines to the houses, which is what I did in order to figure that out. But it was 70% non-conforming off the bat,
Off of that one area.
just that one tax map, just this center area.
Okay, so that's pretty big, but, and then the second thing about the short-term rental, I do agree, I think we should be reconsidering that law, quite a bit. I was never for it to begin with, I always thought we should be a 1 week, restriction. And the reason why this law has come into play was for safety, basically, and we've definitely increased the safety aspect of that law by requiring inspections and making sure houses are up to code for rental. So I think we can go now maybe be a little lenient about the time frame. And the law does state that you're not allowed to advertise for less than 2 weeks. So it's very hard to then let people know that your house is available for 1 week. And I think certainly for the shoulder seasons, we definitely are losing income on Shelter Island with weddings and family events because they're looking at hotels in Greenport And you can see the buses on in June, bringing them out to the ramps ahead. They're not staying here. That's it. And then also I'm here for Sanford. If you have any questions.
All right, so if there's no one else who wants to speak, we will move on to the Sanford Derby. So this is an annual event by the Lions Club that is a fundraiser. It's a fishing tournament for children under the age of 14. There's no fee. I think the biggest change this year is the moving of the location. You've historically had it on school property, I
We've
think.
been everywhere, actually, if you want to get up here. We've been at the Legion, at the school, and then last year we were at the library. The Legion is having their barbecue event the same day as us, so we can't use that space. The school, because of the formatting of the front lawn now, has become tight with the growth of trees and with the new septic system. And the library, we were told was going to be under construction when we kind of talked about doing this, so we are requesting to be in our new field over here. So, we will be setting up a tent. I have spoken to the town, the building department, and I have a permit, and I'm submitting a permit, and I will have an engineer look at that. I will do everything that is required by the building department. And it attracts about 200 kids, or actually 200 are present, it's not all, it's 100 children usually participate. All of our donations are done by sponsorship, it's not a fee-based event, so all the donations go to the Lions Club Foundation, which serves all of the needs of people that are either sick or having some financial difficulties. It's scholarships, and a lot of the youth activities on Shelter Island. Our budget is, from the foundation alone, is about $60,000 of giving out to the Shelter Island community itself. And we raise almost half of that at this event. So, you have any other questions?
I just have some questions about the layout. It looks like there's 3 electrical cords and a hose going across driving and parking areas. Do you have a way
So
to
the electrical is hopefully coming from the police station, and the police station is going to block off that area so there's no driving over that, and that's where the hose and electrical come from. And if we need,
Christina, can you let me share?
yeah, and if we need the other one that comes from here, which is at the front, because you have no electrical on this side of the building. It might come from the planter, and then we'll just put mats down on top of them so that they are not a tripping hazard in that area. Okay, and we might not even need them. Oh gosh, seriously, give that up.
This is better than some of the ones I've seen, so.
You start out paper. And we have a, yeah, you we're gonna have a porta potty, so the town building will not be used for that. And the hose is coming from the police department. The hose is for filleting fish. The electrical cords are for the popcorn machine and the scale.
And cooking the fish.
And cooking fish, yeah. But yes, the kids bring the fish and we fillet them. And then they are able to be eaten on site. Okay. So yes, we have thought about that part of the, and hopefully we won't have to use this one, but it was on there just in case.
Yeah, I just wanted to check and see if you had a plan for making them not a tripping hazard and so that they don't get wrapped in someone's tire.
Yeah, yeah.
The only,
Aren't they going across just the driveway to the police department? Or-
That'll be blocked off with a roadblock. So the police department actually will be from the building back where they park. Because I'm gonna take the water from the hose that's where they wash their cars. So that won't be a parking area at all.
Yeah.
And then we kind of were directing people to park over in the school lot, but the church school lot over there.
Okay.
Well, Chief Reed's on.
Mhm.
Is there any? Chief, do you have any comments?
No, I have no concerns. I'm very familiar with this event and very familiar with the setup. And if they stay back by that ramp area, there shouldn't be any issues with trip hazards if we cone it off and mark it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I just had the parking question, but my recollection from this event is that it's kind of a rolling, as the kids catch their fish, they come and go, so it's not like we
It's
have.
fast, it's a very
Okay.
fast, it's a 4
75
o'clock
hours at
and
once.
we're pretty much out of here by really 5:30. Especially because the barbecue does exist at the same time. They really are pushing this through, and they're going over there for dinner. We don't serve hamburgers or hot dogs anymore because of that event. So it's really a way in and move on.
Are there any other questions out from the public? If the board doesn't have any problems with this, we'll put this on for Monday night.
Sound good?
Great, thanks.
There's no issues.
It's a wonderful event, really is. I mean, the kids love it, my grandkids loved it. Sometimes they're all in it for the shirt, but they love it.
And the shirts are really cool.
The next outdoor assembly permit is for the Beach House LLC, better known as Sunset Beach, which is a Lions Club fundraiser. And this one is before us, even though the entire event is on premise, it's they're requesting a noise exemption, which would be from 9 o'clock to 10:30.
We could stop it at 10.
Pardon?
We could stop at 10.
What if you stop at 10, they still need the?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it's amplified music. So, it's just going to,
Yeah,
I'm trying to bring up the, I've got the. Adrian is here from Sunset Beach to answer any questions. I just have one question with respect to the speakers. The speakers are going to be angled back toward, like, not towards the beach, but towards the back of the property.
Good afternoon, Adrian Angelovitz. The speakers, so the live music probably in the back of the property, which we call the wine garden. It's behind the restaurant, between the parking lot and the restaurant. Speakers would be facing towards the water. There is small stage, 3 boost monitor, 2 subwoofer on both sides, 2 speakers on top of each subwoofer. It's not techno music, just want to put that out. Yeah, you can see the stage there, and there should be another attachment with also more diagram where you're this one, you'll see the speakers. It's the parking, the restaurant is. The right side, that's the septic system, and the hill.
So the restaurant's over in this
It's in the front.
yellow is the restaurant, the building itself?
The yellow is the restaurant, that's right here. Yeah,
And the event takes place in this area?
that's correct.
Okay, so not near the bocce ball courts.
That's correct. All cars will be parked on property, obviously. Bathroom of Sunset Beach being used.
Normally get a lot of complaints from across the water.
You get complaints from neighbors. So like the Serpentine area, yeah.
But not from the Greenport side.
No, the direction they have it all facing is perfect because it points the noise away from all the neighbors who would have
Yeah.
complaints.
I
So,
will call, I know personally and have personal relationship now after all these years with two of our neighbors on Serpentine, Joel and Deborah. I will make sure that call Joel. He came by to drop off a bottle of his wine that he makes on Shelter Island yesterday to my office. I was not there. But I will make sure to call Joel and to call Deborah as well to let them know. I'll be there, of course. The idea is not to blast music and techno. It's just we have 120 invitees, dinner, event, music, and then we resume evening as usual. I'd like to say that this is the very first time we ask for noise exemption, and that we have been doing the past few years everything we can to respect the neighborhood. They all have my phone number whenever it's too loud because of the wind. That's usually the problem with Serpentine. They call me, text me, and as you may know, I'm on property on weekends until 2 o'clock in the morning. The last guest leave, so I'm the one turning down the music every single time. We are reactive. We don't want to be seen as the bad people.
You do a good job with that.
And I appreciate it.
The evening, the 28th. Forgot to mention that. And it is supported by the Lions Club.
Could I just say something quickly? Susan, the president of the Lions Club. I just want to say Sunset Beach has been so generous to the Lions Club and such good neighbors on Shelter Island for more than 20 years. And so we're pleased that, again, after the cornhole tournament, that they're going to be the benefactor of this also.
Any other questions from the table? Any questions from the public? On Zoom? Okay, are we good to put this on for Monday? I'm okay.
Supervisor, just for clarity on one point, Councilwoman Larson mentioned 10 PM as a stop time. Was that something that has changed, or is it, what were the original times, Adrian?
9 to 10:30. So 10 would be a little earlier.
If you were to do that, Councilwoman, would you bump the time the other way? So go 8:30 to 10:30 instead of I just want to be clear on the times. If the board, when the board grants this, I want to make sure that we understand the times.
It depends on when you want to end. I mean, I don't mind the 9 to 10:30. If you want to do 8:30 to 10, that's fine with me. I don't have an objection. It's whatever you feel will go over best with the neighbors.
And Adrian, as you know, we try to balance enforcement and discretion and all those things. Would it be possible to push that time and have it stop at 10, just bump it a half hour the other way in consideration for the permit and in consideration of the neighbors?
Jim, I know, if this is the requirement to get this, then I'll do what it takes. But allow me to say that first, originally I was thinking to apply until 11 PM. So this way we could serve dinner, get the dinner served in a timely manner, and then get the show. For that 11 was pushing a little bit, because I know my neighbors on Serpentine, and I don't want to bug them on a Wednesday. They're not used to that. Saturday, it's another thing. The entire island come and dance at Sunset Beach. That's something else. But like I said, if it's 10 PM, then so be it. I'll manage to move the dinner just before. I would really, truly appreciate if we could do the 9. It's an hour and a half. We pay for a band. It is far from being cheap. It's far from being cheap. It's a big cost as well. So if it could be considered, I would greatly appreciate it. If it's 10 PM, I would be extremely happy as well to take 10 PM. Hope you answers, Chief.
Look, I'd feel more comfortable it was 10 PM.
Get it?
And this event, is it invite only?
Yes.
Yeah, we curate the dinner and then we have that later.
So what does the board think? 10 or 10:30?
Meg, what was your objection to 10:30?
I just know that we put 10 on other things, but it doesn't, I'm honestly open. I don't mind 10:30. Chief seems to prefer 10, but I'm fine with whatever the board decides.
Jim, you prefer 10?
And again, Councilman Dixon, I'm trying to balance the generosity of Sunset Beach and the neighbors and being a weekday. So I would, with that said, I would prefer 10.
All right, okay.
How do you guys feel?
I like that. I could go either way. I do feel for the neighbors though. It is a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my biggest thing. It's just, it is a weeknight, so people are working.
Yeah. But also, what would be best for the Lions Club? What do you think, Susan?
Oh,
Rock in a hard place there.
10:15.
There you go. I mean, I'm okay with 10. I'm okay with 10:30. I mean,
Yeah,
I
so
really-
it was.
really-
I'm okay with either. I don't,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's a one-time event. If this starts to become, I ask like multiple times, then I would start to scale it back.
And it is the Lions Club.
Mhm.
So I don't,
So we'll put it on for Monday from 9 to 10:30.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right, we're good. Thank you. Okay, next topic, the exciting Cablevision franchise agreement renewal.
Yay. Just the one.
Right, to start this off. Stephen, if you could just, there's always a lot, myself included over the years, what this franchise agreement covers and doesn't cover, because we are constrained by federal regulations.
Correct.
So if you could just explain, like, cable provides us with TV, internet, and phone service.
Yes. So first and foremost, people don't understand what a franchise agreement is. Why is it necessary? Well, there's federal law and state law that require it. And it's anytime a cable company wants to provide cable service to a town or a village, they have to get permission from that town or village, particularly because they're going to be utilizing right-of-ways for their cable lines. So that's the purpose of this agreement. And right now, due to federal law, it only applies to the cable service end. And that's really only important when you're looking at franchise fees because they actually pay the town an annual fee, I think it's paid quarterly, based on their gross receipts from just the cable service. I think, did Shelby send you how much we made last year?
Yes. That is, hold on a second, we budgeted 80,000 and last year we took in, I think it was like 74,000.
That only covers cable TV and phone?
No, just cable.
Cable, and the calculation is based just on cable revenues, not on all of the revenue.
Correct. And
More
that's
people are going internet only,
cutting the cord.
cutting the cable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a good trend for us.
Yeah, however, I think there is some movement on the federal side to incorporate internet service. And that's why they were pushing for a 10-year term, and I pushed back and said, no, we want a 5-year term because in case that change is made, we're not locked in for a decade before we can, benefit from that.
We took in $77,748 in 2023. We've only gotten the first quarter payment so far this year. That is trending to average to be like 73,500. So I need to note that. Yeah, I need to note that for budget, when we start doing budget, dropping numbers and, but yeah, because like myself included, I found I wasn't watching TV, didn't need a phone, so I just do internet, so
Yeah.
I think more and more people.
I dropped it a long time ago.
Mhm.
I just said, yeah, smart TVs.
And another thing we get, not only, you know, our cut, which is 3%, you can go up to 5%. But the federal law allows it to be, that cost to be passed along to the subscribers. So if we said, hey, we want more money, the residents are gonna have to pay for that. So we don't want to pass that along. But another benefit we get from being a franchise or is that they give us what's called a PEG grant. It's for our ability to utilize Channel 22 and broadcast, you know, our meetings to the public. And I was able to negotiate $15,000 as a PEG grant. Now, what's great about that is I believe it was like around 6,000 because we recently did an upgrade on our cameras and mics. So that'll pay all that off, plus give us some money to make further upgrades during the term.
And Stephen did the initial sit down with them, which allows us to come in and be the heavies if there's things in this contract that need to be refined, which I have a couple that I wanted to bring up. There's also a public hearing on this that we will set on Monday for September 15th. So that being said, some of the comments that I had. I've got some just like nits and nats, like misspellings or spacing or why something bolded, so I'll give those to you after this meeting. On page 5 of the draft, 6.4, I went back and compared it to our prior agreement. And so here revision was the one drafted this. So I was looking for things that had disappeared, and one of the things that was, that disappeared was, there's a section about they have the right to remove, trim, cut, and clear trees and bushes. They took out such trimming and cutting shall be performed in a professional manner and shall be minimum necessary to prevent such trees and bushes from contacting franchisee's equipment. No trees or bushes shall be removed except in the case of emergency or widespread pruning undertaken without prior notice to us, without at least 10 days notice. So I'd like to see that section put back.
Yeah, so after we spoke, I called the representative on Cablevision or Altice's side, and they've agreed to keep that in. They'll put that back.
There was some minor wording that was excluded in 8-3 on page 8, just within a time consistent requirements of federal and state law. And more importantly, if we have a default revocation or termination, that there'd be continued during the period while it's getting sorted out, we'd have continued cable service. So I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I spoke to her about that as well, and she's bringing it back to her attorneys. What we're thinking is that it's already covered by federal and state regulations, so it's a little redundant to be put in the agreement.
Mhm.
But we'll see what their argument, like, again, it's no harm, no foul, even if it is redundant. So I'll have
More
further conversations.
Yeah, more importantly, it's just a continuation of service until.
Yep.
And I'm sort of going through this quickly, so if there's
No,
other
okay.
comments, just interrupt me before I. There's a new section added on page 13, 17.4. Franchisee specifically reserves the right to make or change channel assignments in its sole discretion. I sort of understand that, but it is new language, so when we have the public hearing, can we direct them to just explain why that was a new clause for them?
Yep.
In the old agreement on page 15, it went from 19 to 20, but it had a different 20. And rates and charges a section on rates and charges disappeared. Rates and charges imposed by the franchisee for cable television service shall be subject to the approval of the municipality, New York PSC and FCC to the extent required. I can see how that's like, as you said, it's already like there, except for the municipality piece. And I don't think that we've ever been consulted on rates.
Yes, so there's been, because this is called legacy language, so it's from franchise agreements from 20, 30 years ago that keeps carrying over. In the interim, there's other competitors now, like Verizon, whatever. So if there is effective competition, then the municipality, nor the state, nor the federal government can enter, because it's free market capitalism, so we can chime in on rates. That's what the case law is. She's going to get me some case law substantiating that, but it does make sense because, again, prior to Verizon getting in the game, there was only one cable company, and that's why they needed no governmental intervention on rates, presumably. But now there's competition.
Everywhere on the island. I think Verizon, like Fios, is only down the main one.
And I brought that up, and it's just because there potentially could be competition. There's no bar for competition. So say if they, put the rates up so high, maybe everybody will stop using them, and then, I don't know.
So I would like to push that.
Yeah.
There's also a section on employment practices, but I think in this day and age, as you said, it's probably legacy wording because everybody's subject to
Yes.
who they hire and complying with employment.
What paragraph is it?
It was old 21, so in the old agreement. New section 28, which I think was, yes, old section 30. There was a section on franchisee shall offer a discount of 10% off the monthly service charge to senior citizens 62 years age older. You have to be receiving real property tax exemptions, but that's gone, so.
Yeah, I spoke to her about that. Again, it's legacy language because right now, she's arguing and again, it was a brief conversation, so we'd have to look into it. But she's saying that no one on Shelter Island would qualify for it based on real estate prices and things like that. They did a study in Greenport and there was not one person who could qualify for it. But I'm still gonna pursue it with her, but that was her initial reaction. But people who have that discount now are grandfathered in. So if they're a senior that did qualify, they can maintain that. But again, this is the great thing about a public hearing, we can question.
Okay. So can you, it's the exemptions pursuant to section 606C. So if you could pull that for us, just so we can understand the qualifying, what the qualifying event is in that. You know where I am?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
In Exhibit A, I saw we added the town attorney's office for getting free cable. What about the assessor's office? They were the only office that I didn't see on this list. I don't know if there's a desire for it.
We sent an email out to all department heads asking if they would want cable service. I don't know, Christina, did you hear? And we also asked, how their service is there any issues? We also reached out to the school and the library. And there weren't any major issues, right?
those are my comments.
No.
All right, so we will, yes. Do we have to make those edits and repost them before setting the public, or when we set the public hearing, or it's just the resolutions to?
The resolution set the public hearing, we can still make changes after the public. Because ideally, some changes may be born out of. But just so everyone knows, for scheduling purposes, November 24th is the deadline
Yes,
upon which this current franchise agreement expires. So we have to get everything done before November 24th.
if I give this to you, will you give it back to me after you minutes?
Sure.
You don't have to waste paper making copies. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Deer and Tick mission statement. Would one of the Deer and Tick liaisons like to read it?
Sure.
Oh, and, yeah, that's, never mind.
Okay. Shelter Island Deer and Tick Committee mission statement. To advise the Shelter Island Town Board in measures deemed socially acceptable, environmentally sound, and fiscally responsible, managing, monitoring, and maintaining the deer and tick populations as low as possible in an effort to decrease the risk incidence of tick-borne diseases on Shelter Island. This was much discussed in the Deer and Tick Committee and was passed at our last meeting to be presented to the town board for approval.
No objections to. Mm-hmm. You're gonna say
It's a
something?
short statement, but it did take a lot of time, a lot of thought. I mean,
It's the same.
it belies the effort that, really.
Any comments from the public? Anyone on Zoom? You go ahead and get that formalized in resolution then. And we need Stephen back for merger authority. I'll leave it till he gets. Do we know where he went? Oh, here he comes. We're waiting on you, we're up to merger authority.
What Deer and Tick would, you know.
We could read it again.
Yeah, so we had started to pick this up, but I think we needed to get some more direction on where we're going with this.
Yeah, so we have to act. We can't, the status quo is not legal or effective. So right now, arguably, no one can merge their lots even if they wanted to, because we don't have a procedure for them to do so. So,
Well, there is a procedure at the county level.
no.
Go to the county and,
Well, you can do, I'm assuming a lot line modification to absorb the lot next to you, potentially. But as far as merging, no, so it's all local based, so that we have to have a procedure, and then they take that approval to the county and the maps are changed in kind with the local approval. So again, we're at a standstill with people who can't merge their properties. Because what was supposed to have had happened when it was repealed, and it was even in the minutes and the resolution, that a working group would be formed to find an alternative to replace the void. It was not done. So we have to do something. So,
It was an automatic merger.
correct, operation by law. But it was also, you had the mandatory, but also a voluntary merger. So again, there was two vehicles to merge properties, and one if you wanted to, and one if you, and the only way mergers are triggered is if you have non-conforming lots. So if you had a conforming lot and a conforming lot owned by the same person and they're adjoining, they don't merge. The purpose behind merger is to bring conformity in onto the island, or conformity into whatever town has it. So I, for one, think that we should go back to what was in the code. Because you have the mandatory and voluntary options, and then there's the waiver of merger. So if there was a merger by operation of law, you can go to the zoning board of appeals to have them unmerged. And so, but again, at the end of the day, the board has to decide, do you want to just have you could just have voluntary mergers if someone wants to merge their property, but you have to give them that ability. So, so the only question would be, do you want to bring back by operation of law mergers? And again, that's if you want more conformity on the island.
I think it should be voluntary. We've had a couple issues where it was merged by operation of law, and then the people come back to us to try to subdivide because they didn't want it to be merged, or they were notified that it was merged and it was causing problems. So I would prefer it to be a voluntary act and give them a process.
Yeah, but you can also waiver of merger from the zoning, if that does happen.
But that's a process.
That's, yeah.
Correct. No, I'm just giving you your options.
People aren't aware of it.
And why isn't isn't there a simple solution in offering notice when the operation of law kicks in? Because a lot of people don't know it happened.
But then they would still need to get it unmerged, even if because our notice would be, hey, exactly, you're merged. Surprise.
What about,
I'd like more,
I'm sorry, Aaron.
no, Ben.
What about a more affirmative approach where the town has the ability to merge two non-conforming lots owned by the same entity, but not have it not done by operation of law?
So it's selective?
Yeah. Exactly.
I just want to merge your lots, Meg.
Just laying it out there, I don't have any lots. Yeah, no, that sounds selective to me.
No, I'd like to look at it more. I don't, I can't jump right in here with that.
All right, so I'll get everyone a copy of the previous code and take a look at that. Again, it's not that bad of a code if you want to go the operation of law. If you don't, then I can come up with some language for just voluntary.
I am not in favor of the operation by law. We changed it for a reason. I can't remember how many years ago,
Yeah.
but it
And the
was
reason was?
because people were getting their lots merged and not discovering it until they went to sell or do something, give it to a child so that they could build a home on it. And then they were forced to go to the ZBA to undo what they didn't know, and then, just timeline. I feel like it should be a voluntary effort. If I have two parcels, I don't want to have, do I have to sit there and figure out like, oh, better put it in the husband's name and the wife's name in order to not let them be merged? I'd rather it be affirmative action by someone to.
I mean, that's true, and I do like that argument, but there's a lot more community knowledge around this now. Everyone understands merger. And, if they buy the lot next door, and if you're John Smith and you buy the lot next door, you put it in John J. Smith. And that would block the merger by
But I
operational
don't think
law.
that's common knowledge. I
so.
don't think
Yeah, you're a lawyer.
anybody off the street would know that.
Well, the
You know, I don't
attorneys
think
do,
that's-
the attorneys
Yeah, they're all
and
represented by lawyers.
the
who all know.
realtors.
Yeah, I don't know. We're looking at pending legislation, so we're not taking public comment at this time.
That's a silly question.
Send me an email, Angela.
Same.
I'm trying to understand it more better.
Remember, I just wanted, you're right on point, so it's one part. I just want to say one part.
No,
Two
we'll,
lots meld together, if you have two primary residences, now you can make two non-conforming a parcel, because you're not allowed to have two primary residences on one lot. And that's what Lori Bree of Raymond brought up when it was repealed.
but you passed me on since we let Angela talk. You had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what's the non-conforming plot?
Anything less than an acre.
Anything else to make?
Well,
Or
depending-
less.
2 acres.
2 acres and
Depending
no
depending on
way.
what zone you're in, it's, yeah. But, yeah, I think, so we can continue to take a look at it, but we did change it for a reason because we were creating unknown hardships for people. And I don't agree that everybody knows, even though represented by, legal counsel upon purchase, just things fall through the crack, but we'll put it back on again, but, or
Yeah.
if you could also just look at taking the existing legislation and completing the part where if it's voluntary, what is the process within the town for making that happen?
Okay, because we did have a de facto process through the assessor's office where someone basically was voluntarily merging, they would go through the assessor, so we can sort of incorporate that into the voluntary provision. But, so we have 2 for just voluntary and,
I don't know, I wanna look at the legislation, I wanna an email from Angela, and I want an email from Lori Broad Raymond.
and what about Jan?
Yes, that's question.
What's the process of unmerging or merging?
Zoning board.
So, no.
Zoning board.
Zoning.
Zoning board.
Oh, it's not planning board?
No, if,
Didn't you have some kind of provision where if you merged it, you couldn't unmerge?
So we had a complication with this because we had a lot that was merged by operation of law. In order to unmerge those lots, they had to go for both a subdivision and a lot line adjustment in order to create 3, because they had 3 lots. The way it got merged now created 2 lots, but they wanted their 3 lots back. In order to do that, they first needed to subdivide and then move all the lot lines to get them conforming.
they
It
should have
created
had,
a hot mess.
if they went through the CBA process, because you would have just waived the merger and it would have reverted back to the.
Oh, don't tell that.
It created a nightmare.
I was gonna say, my question really was,
No, we
if
can't.
it's voluntary merger, can they then, 10 years later, unmerge them?
We should,
question,
we
yeah.
we should be.
I know, we're sort of,
I think that's accurate.
if you could bring,
A 3rd email.
Yes.
if you could do some FAQs to go along with a copy of the old legislation, a process to be incorporated in the current legislation, and just like the pros and cons and what the procedure is in both situations. Along with dog code, along with that.
Exactly. But yeah, but we have to sort of move on this just because I know there's an application pending that, is stalled because we don't have a process. So.
What's the step forward?
I want to review it more, Stephen, that's,
And also,
I'll expedite my review, whatever.
yeah, just so like the example that was thrown out about to improve lots, you can, write it into the code that if the lot that's going to be merged is improved, it's not, you can get outside the merger by operation of law if it's improved. So we can write a law around that case. So, all right.
Or just keep it voluntary.
Or just keep it voluntary, that's fine.
Yeah, or keep it voluntary. Okay. All right, moving on to comprehensive. We have Coco with us today, who's going to be sort of tracking our changes as we go forward. And
What about the things discussed today?
to date, we're gonna circle back to Coco. And we've got, we can go back to the tape and capture some things and also just sit with 1, 2, or multiple
Yeah.
permutations.
I took notes on the last conversation.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you got my email.
I did, thank you, Ben.
Some of the language I was asked to rewrite, I have rewritten, and I shared it with the town board and I shared it with Coco.
Yeah, and I did not get a chance to read through it, but we will be circling back on all of this as we do our wrap up, or if we have available time to hike through sometime, someday. So we left off on,
4.1, I think.
yeah,
I have a marker here.
yes, I was gonna say.
Can I just do another, as I said last week, and I just want to reiterate that I really think we need the services of a municipal planner to review these prospective zoning changes. I mean, they're really going to affect most of the property really on Shelter Island, most of our building lots. I just think it's prudent and it's necessary, I really do. I don't have the expertise to look into the future and see the ramifications of what the zoning changes proposed will do. I don't think anybody at the table here really does. I think it's just a prudent action and we should do it. We should agree to it, really.
I mean, we will be doing an environmental, and we have to continue scoping that. But there was something that,
Can you repeat that?
We're following the secret process, Benjamin.
yeah, and we need to scope what that, what the environmental is. I don't think we want to just like, here's the whole document. I think we want to like, this is, like, these are the areas of concern. And make sure that's the focus. But there was something in here where, when I was thinking through, I thought it was in the chapters we're going through today. I'm not going to look back on it. Where there was just something where I was like, how can we, like, I remember Bob DeLuca saying something, do your environmental now so you don't have to do it when you do code changes. And my thought when I was reading something is, like, we don't even know what this would look like, so how could we do a proper environmental and then not do one later?
So many of these things we'll have to do one later.
Yeah, I
It's not,
just,
yeah.
I don't,
What was that?
Bob DeLuca said if we did
Yeah.
it, but
He said do a full
and then we
GEIS.
won't have to do a GEIS.
Right,
when we
'cause
do
you studied all the ramifications of what's in the plan.
But I disagree with that because it's going to be site specific, or if we're doing a code change, the way things get included or excluded or something gets changed, that I think we need to do it at the time because existing conditions might be different. And
I think the point he was making was, if you do it now, full one now, and you need to hone it later and pinpoint it and sharpen the focus of it, it's easier to do that later if you've done it in the first place.
It's cheaper too, because otherwise you'd have to do a secret review for each change along the way. If you do it the first time initially, it's done in essence.
But we probably should be doing that. We should have done that with the pyramid law, and you've asked for that to be done with the
It's true.
proportionality law.
Correct.
And now we've got,
We have to
community
cut this whole plan.
objection to the pyramid law because we didn't do that. So we don't want to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I found the section. So in 4.1, one of the things is wetland and other non-buildable areas should not be included in floor area calculations. That's kind of a broad statement because if we sit down and do legislation on that, like the way we define that, and what we're doing, how would we do an EAF on this? Like, I think we would need the detailed legislation to do a proper EAF. Like, this is just a proposal without any hard substance to it.
Oh, just.
So I just-
And by doing it now, you get the full spectrum background. And if you have to go into that later with proposed legislation, they have the base GIS to start working with. And
Just, the law is if you do a DGIS in connection with the comprehensive plan, all future zoning code amendments that are made pursuant to that comprehensive plan, you don't have to do secret. But if you don't do a DGIS, then you have to do secret on each individual zoning.
That's painting with a broad
There's no public comment on this because there will be public hearings. But I don't know if I agree with that because I feel like we'd want to do it when we have specific assumptions in front of us.
Oh, no, I'm saying you could still go ahead and go through the motion, but I'm saying the law amendments is if you have a DGIS done in connection with the comprehensive plan, any subsequent zoning amendments, you're not required to do separate and distinct secret review for those amendments.
Not true.
Because they're blessed under the DGIS.
And Kim, if you chime in out of turn one more time, I'll ask that you be removed. Okay, well, as we sit down and figure out the scoping for the environmental.
Well, that's different than Albert's question. Albert was asking about a town planner. And there are a lot of things in here that I think would benefit from the input, and opinion, and expertise of a town planner.
Yeah, but you would do that at the time you want to implement that goal. These are ideas for the board to look at and consider at a later time when it's appropriate for implementation, because there's budget considerations that have to go into it, there's long-term planning considerations. It's not like this plan is gonna pass and then everything is going to just move into law. It's up to the board and every subsequent board to decide which one of these goals and recommendations is applicable at that time, what issues we're having, which one works to solve that problem, and then to figure out the best way to do it. This doesn't write legislation. It's a guiding tool for ideas and concepts that could be beneficial for the town in the future. So I would say at the time you want to go and implement something, that's when you hire the planner, because your conditions may have changed. If it's 5 years from now, conditions may look different. So I don't think you need to hire a planner to theoretically and hypothetically look at what could be down the line in 5 to 10 years when the conditions are going to be different then, and that's when you should spend the money.
I disagree. I would like to have a planner now look at the changes that are proposed in this, to understand the ramifications of them, and if they're really good for Shelter Island. And if they're not, I would like to understand how and why and eliminate them. Because if they're put in here, any future town board can go to this and say, look, it's recommended that we do this. And then you lose control over that, that's all. That's my feeling.
My point is that future town boards can also say, hey, I have this great idea, I think we should do this, and it may not even be in this comp plan. So for example, the pyramid law is not recommended in this comp plan. However, we passed it. So, you know, it's not necessarily an end-all be-all, it's just a guiding document.
I still would like input from a planner. I don't understand the ramifications of a lot of the zoning changes in here.
And not just on.
I don't think we do.
There's
I
things
don't think any of us do.
Throughout here that it'd be nice to have some other insight. I mean, I'm looking at one paragraph now. What is this? Consider allowing second floor apartments above retail business in the B zone. And it goes on to talk about doing it through the addition of public sewer and public water. I'd love to hear some input from a town planner on that. But
That's not what it says.
it says, sure it does.
No, it says that, right, consider allowing second floor apartments of retail and business zones. And then it goes on to say that the only way that this would really be viable is if there was infrastructure in those areas. So it's
Not
not,
necessarily true, first of all. Second of all, I'd love some input from a town planning professional. Just saying, that's just one example. And I keep tripping over all sorts of things like that.
All right, keep highlighting them. So that when we,
Yeah, but I can't hear
I have to
you.
say, keep highlighting these areas then, so we can have a later discussion, we can start bringing potential town planners to help us with this.
Are we on page 57?
58.
I had gone,
I was on 58.
I had gone back to page 57, just,
Okay.
I,
I'd address issue of illegal conversions. Shouldn't we include basement and attic space in the square footage?
what page are you on?
57.
Well, we've talked about that here. I mean, the SFLA law that we're living with today, as compared to a gross square footage calculation, which I would prefer, but we weren't able to agree on what is the total maximum gross square footage.
So, yeah, what we wrote, so what's written in the comp plan is to address this issue of the unfinished spaces, the town should evaluate zoning requirements and permitting processes to reduce the incentive or ability for property owners to gain approval for a dwelling.
I'm just suggesting that we include basement and attic space in the square footage.
One
And if-
method would be to count a portion of basement or attic areas as part of the allowable square footage for a given parcel. So it's already in there. It's the next sentence, Jen.
One method would be, but I'm just looking for something more definitive, I guess.
So it's not this document's job to be definitive and write the legislation. It's up to the board creating the law to state this is how we want to do it. This is giving ideas and
Oh, I
options.
understand, the document.
I would need to be extra careful.
So what proposed language do you have?
Basements and attics should be considered part of the square footage allowable. In essence, I don't have specific language, I'd have to sit down and write it down.
Yeah, because we're trying to like make sure like Coco's can be kept in all this, so we do need specific language, so we can.
Then I could submit, I'll write something.
Yes.
It says that. They would be, you'd count portions of basements or attics as part of the allowable square footage for a given parcel, regardless of whether they are finished or not. Another method could be to levy fines on such illegal conversions.
Here, take a crack at it. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have like editing ability because of the way the software is for this. So when we sit down with Coco, we can like,
Yeah, I had to cut and paste it all into Word and then edit it in Word with tracking, so you can see what I've changed, and that's what I sent to you guys.
yeah, so what we'll do is something similar to that where we'll have like, you know, this page, this, you know, section and, you know,
Now, I'm not sure where
wording is all agreed on, wording that, you know, is submitted and has yet to be reviewed because you've written something and so the rest of us need to take a look at it. Albert will write something. I've got edits that, you know, I'll make sure are denoted to me, just, you know, smaller stuff, yeah. Okay, next. Who's going to say something?
So, yeah, 4.1. Can't remember, kind of stuff here. Didn't I toss out an IA system add in that strength and limits on density?
On 58,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the second sentence. It is widely
Yeah.
understood that IA systems and building sanitary sewers will help to improve water quality by managing and treating wastewater.
And then take out this following sentence.
no,
No, I didn't write that down.
Oh, yeah.
no.
Let me
I
throw
don't
that
think
out
we
there now.
should. No.
What did I say?
Well, I don't think that adding IA systems above makes sense. I don't think that removing the sewer line makes sense. So this is about people's concern that adding public sewers has the potential to increase density in an area.
Sorry, you're right, I canceled that comment.
Okay, but we did, I think either you or Albert suggested the second paragraph down, if the infrastructure is in place, i.e. cluster systems, wastewater treatment facilities, or public water, we struck what was in parentheses.
We struck the examples.
I mean,
Well, what I left in was
wastewater treatment.
some residents, take out the first part of the next sentence. Leave in some residents have expressed serious concern that such infrastructure would potentially lead to blah, blah, blah.
Where,
I mean, the first one states that,
but then we have to not put in IA systems because then such infrastructure refers to IA systems and building
no,
sanitary
such
sewers.
infrastructure refers to the ultimately necessary public sewers and water. That is
Oh, I
stated
thought
in
you-
that sentence.
But I thought you were striking that. I thought you were starting,
Yes.
I thought you were starting the
I wanna,
sentence. at some-
yeah, I wanna take that out. But in some residents are expressed, there's,
I don't know what changes you're trying to
oh,
make.
well, you
I
actually,
saw
all
on it. Yeah,
right, I'll read it to you. Some residents have expressed a serious concern that, that public sewers or water infrastructure would eventually lead to additional density. That's the restructured sentence.
But what are you eliminating?
I'm eliminating the general reference to such infrastructure and replacing it with specific reference to public sewers and water. And I'm eliminating the first part of the sentence up to the comma. So it starts with some residents have expressed.
No, what are you taking out before that? So the paragraph reads, "It is widely understood that building sanitary sewers will help to improve water quality by managing and treating wastewater. While public sewers or water may ultimately be necessary in some areas and will help to address water quality, some residents have expressed a serious concern that such infrastructure would eventually lead to additional density. It is important to affirmatively state that if public sewers or water supplies are built, the residential density of existing residentially zoned areas shall be maintained."
Stuff that in.
What part are you changing though? I don't understand because you're not being clear in exactly what lines you're,
I'll say, I'll rewrite this paragraph and I will email it to you tomorrow.
okay.
I actually think I got it. I think it starts at some. So some
Yeah.
residents have expressed a serious concern that such public sewers and water
Infrastructure
infrastructure
will
will
eventually lead to.
Eliminate, I said it would eliminate the Suffolk County sanitary code. It would allow an increase in density.
But yes, Amber, you got it right.
Okay. I wasn't sure what you were saying you were removing.
Removing, starting with while and ending at the first comma.
Because you want to take out the statement that it might be necessary to have sewer and water infrastructure at some point for certain areas?
Yeah, because it's making us, number one, it's making a heavily leading assumption that that's where we should go. And I think it should be left open to circumstances that appear in the future.
I disagree with you.
Okay, that's okay. You're allowed.
I think that there are some areas, especially nearshore areas, where public water might be a necessity.
It might be. But
So
we'll have to wait and
that,
see.
this addresses the
Or
fear
maybe
that,
not as well.
this addresses the fear that people express about the fact that potentially necessary infrastructure could lead to increased density. This makes an affirmative statement saying that we maintain our existing zoning and density restrictions like Albert wanted us
That's a
to
good part.
do.
That's a good part.
So why would we eliminate the line that's acknowledging the fact that we understand there may be potential need for some of these things in the future?
Like, we could make this.
It's
We
short-sighted.
can make this sentence longer and add other alternatives for filtration systems and
But that
undersink.
doesn't make any sense based on the
Sure,
context of
it's
the
an
paragraph.
option, it's an option to building public water lines and public sewer systems.
But this is specifically addressing density in residentially zoned areas.
Exactly, you take out the sewer and the water and you almost deal with density.
But that's only part of it, though.
So it's addressing the concern that people have for potential increased density. So if the concern that keeps getting expressed is if we need public water and sewer in an area, then, oh no, you could double density. This is addressing that concern because there are people in the community calling for public water because their water is not potable. There are people saying we should do public sewer because we're contaminating our drinking water. So this is acknowledging that some people do believe that that is necessary, but also affirmatively stating that that infrastructure, should it ever come around, not impact our zoning code and our current density standards.
I'm happy to rewrite this for
Don't bother.
you.
We do in chapter 7 talk about challenged areas of the island. So we do start to address the fact that there might be a public water utility service that's needed. So if we're not addressing it here, we are addressing it in chapter 7.
I mean, it's something that we do have to talk about. It's an
We'll get
ongoing
there.
conversation in the
Maybe-
town.
Maybe it doesn't belong
The
here.
it doesn't belong in the comprehensive plan.
No,
it's in
in
chapter
this
seven. It
paragraph,
is in chapter 7,
in this paragraph.
but maybe we just,
But it's about housing and density. They go hand in hand, and this is a concern because the infrastructure affects the housing and density. So we're trying to address it because one of the main concerns that we received via communications from the public in the chart of 100 and something comments was that we don't want infrastructure to lead to increased density. So this was the committee's way of addressing that concern and stating affirmatively that we don't want infrastructure to impact density either. Making a statement in the plan that was clear and stood their ground with that.
But the whole sentence, the heading states, while allowing for potential increased density in business zones. So it does allow for density, and up on the top of the next page, or the second column, where additional housing types and densities may be appropriate.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of doing both.
It's the same page.
Strengthen limits on density in residentially zoned areas while allowing for potential increased density in business zones. And also it refers to increase in appropriate areas and residential areas.
Right.
I mean,
So
is
that
that what we
goes-
want?
Yeah, so this goes back to the housing plan where they recommend apartments over businesses. So it's saying that if that potential infrastructure ever came into fruition, it could be appropriate for apartments to be located over businesses in those areas with the infrastructure to support it. So it's telling you that island-wide, we don't think you can increase density. The community housing plan does have a portion of it that promotes and supports apartments over businesses. And this is that tie-in to like making that accommodation should the appropriate infrastructure be in place. And it says that in order for any of this to happen, you'd have to engage in open dialogue, providing accurate information about the benefits and potential impacts and incorporating community feedback into planning and decision-making process to help alleviate concerns and ensure that any changes in residential density in business areas with the addition of public sewer or water systems are implemented in a manner that benefits the community as a whole. So it's not a carte blanche. It's saying it has this potential in the future if you do all of these things.
You're saying that there are a lot of people out there that are calling for public water. I think there's an awful lot of people that have no interest in having public water.
I agree. I think you get both.
It's,
I think there's people who want it and people who don't.
I think it's,
And there are areas that may need it, and most areas don't.
yeah,
Right.
it's site specific.
So I think that
But
the
that,
comprehensive plan is supposed to be island-wide. So you have to address all the potentialities in it.
island-wide could also mean that in this section of the island, we have these conditions, and that those conditions require a different set of solutions as opposed to an area on the other side, which have different circumstances and require a whole nother set of solutions. I mean, one of the problems is that this stuff is like sprinkled throughout, and it's not, it doesn't fully explain that there could be less expensive, less intrusive ways to approach this problem. I mean, like I said, you go in and talk about while public water and sewers may ultimately be necessary. I mean, it's all choice of words. And you don't mention other alternatives as well that could be there to solve those problems.
So
So you're setting a tone in the sentence that.
take out the word ultimately.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. You told me not to rewrite it 2 minutes ago.
I think what I'd also like to see incorporated, like, okay, yes, that there are alternatives besides public water, but I think we should build in of listening to the discussion, that there are differing needs in different parts of the island. And so this sounds rather blanket for the entire island, and that's definitely not the case.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so I'm trying to just pull it all together in something that is workable for all of us.
It's saying it wants to maintain current zoning island-wide with the exception of potential business zones if they have appropriate infrastructure in supporting the housing plan. That's what it says. It goes into more detail on specific areas in other chapters. But this is saying general residential zoning should be maintained no matter what kind of infrastructure is there.
As I mentioned, these things are sprinkled all throughout, and they don't all say the same thing. So we should also make an effort to try to completely explain it here and everywhere else it's mentioned.
Yeah, which is why I was referencing chapter 7, because it is in 2 places. If you want to draft something, I will take a look at it, because just the edits that I, you know, cutting out this, I feel like we were losing something and it wasn't flowing correctly anymore, so.
Okay, Meg told me not to rewrite it.
I mean, what you were saying didn't make any sense, so I didn't want you to waste your time if it didn't make any sense.
I'll try to rewrite it.
Yes, I'll collaborate with you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Goal 4.2.
Make that mark, so I don't forget to rewrite it.
I have colors.
Yeah, there.
Colors.
I lost where it was.
Yeah,
Page
we're,
58, 4.2.
yeah,
Okay.
we're finally moving on.
The second floor apartments. Got it. It's just stupid language stuff, but how may consider incentives to make such apartments affordable? Want the town to offer tax incentives in connection with requiring that these apartments are affordable, but
Where are you,
like I said,
Ben?
it's just a little language tick.
Where are you?
Oh,
Page
and
58.
page 58,
Bottom
the
of the
right-hand
page.
side.
Yeah, bottom of the page, last paragraph on the right-hand side.
That the town may consider tax incentives to make such apartments affordable. These are the apartments above businesses in B zone. I don't know why B1 is included, but
Because,
Because
well,
up here in the center, there's some
Yeah.
properties that are sort of outside the municipal complex that are technically B1.
oh, okay. And I don't know, the way my brain processed it, it seemed like it made more sense to say the town may consider tax incentives in connection with requiring that such apartments be affordable. And then you create a scheme around that. Deed restrictions, all sorts of good stuff.
so the town may consider tax incentives.
In connection with requiring that such apartments be affordable. It's just a weird language to get.
No, that makes sense. So you're not opposed to apartments over businesses?
I don't love it. Withholding my final determination on that. I don't love it, but I don't know. We need housing
Yes.
for people. We desperately need housing for people. We just need to make sure we do it in a smart way. Albert, how do you feel about it?
I'm concerned about the allowance of density, that's all. Ultimately, that's what I'm concerned about,
What if
and
you,
it's associative.
if you restrict it to certain small areas and use,
Mhm.
like I said, we're gonna talk about this later in other chapters and come back to this, but
So
I like the idea of more housing for people.
I'm gonna say that these two goals are straight out of the community housing plan, which passed by public referendum. So I don't think that it would be appropriate to remove them from the comments.
Didn't say remove them.
But I'm just saying, I don't, just keep that in mind.
Only talks about there.
The plan will be incorporated by reference in its entirety to this.
It's
And it's updatable every 5 years?
Correct. It's part of the law that it has to be. Part of
And
this.
actually, the Community Housing Board is already looking with an eye towards the future of a survey that they would do in anticipation of doing the 5-year update. So
Here we go again, the next paragraph. I'll just make some comments in writing. I mean, in addition, infrastructure, if infrastructure allows, it's that assumption that we should build some infrastructure. I'm not sure that's a assumption that
I don't
everyone
think
agrees
it's telling
with.
you that you have to build infrastructure. It's saying if in the future infrastructure happens.
There might be an easier way to say this. I'll take a look at it and offer a rewrite.
Well, this is what you were speaking to below. The town may want to consider allowing increased density in the business zone if those units are affordable housing.
Mhm. And
And
the
then
infrastructure
it's
that may.
important to consider potential challenges and mitigate any negative impacts. And it talks about infrastructure such as septic and water, access management, parking provisions, appropriate zoning regulations should be in place to ensure high quality of design, compatibility with the surrounding area, and it would include limitations on signs and lighting. So if it were to happen, it would go through a very rigorous review process, and the community would have to be in support of it. Exactly. It has to go through site plan review.
and any zoning variances.
Right. None of these are small or lightly taken changes.
Oh,
They would
no.
happen with significant public input and support, or they wouldn't happen at all.
That kind of feeds into what I asked for, to have a municipal planner look at these, so we understand and the ramifications. They're not small, as you said, Nick. They're not small. And we don't understand them. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'll offer a rewrite. For instance, the rewrite could be as simple as, I'm not sure why it says if infrastructure allows. It could just say, in addition, the town may want, because when the town moves to do it, well, the town will then figure out what's
Okay,
best.
take out if infrastructure allows. No problem.
Dedicated.
I almost feel like that waters it down though, because
Of course it
it's
does.
a
Yep.
current.
It makes it much
It
easier
makes,
to
it
do.
makes it a current consideration instead of something that can only happen later.
Okay, if it's current, why is it not okay if it's current?
I'm just,
All right, then I can,
I'm just
I
tossing
can
out
change
there.
the infrastructure to something
Just
else.
take it out.
I mean, I'll look at it.
Because no matter what, it has to go through site plan. If they want to do apartments of businesses, it still has to have appropriate septic and water, whether it be well in an IA system or whatever. So just take out the
Localized
infrastructure.
dedicated cluster systems is my note here in the margin.
I mean, infrastructure encompasses all of those things. Septic, parking, water. I mean, it's, okay.
Yep.
The next one is develop educational materials and resources to assist and educate homeowners in the process of developing ADUs on their property. I think it is something that's needed, and also
I didn't know.
we're experiencing a little bit, just, having more educational materials available as we go through this ADU+1 program. Just there has been confusion for homeowners, so.
I do have one question. Okay, I know where grants come from. So where does the money for loans come from? Same place?
Yep.
So the county and state government.
And locally, because we have that 0.5%.
Right,
Oh,
we
yeah,
could
that's-
create our own loan
Yes.
program based on that.
Not tax dollars. I think that's
No.
my point.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's always the potential for tax dollars, but we have funding sources, so.
Why would you want to use tax dollars?
I'm not saying we do.
Oh.
I'm just like,
Okay, I mean, I'm not gonna worry about
I think,
it.
funding sources are funding sources.
But, spend a lot of time worrying about
It's not gonna happen this budget.
it.
Absolutely.
Or next budget year.
Yeah. Updating the community housing plan every 5 years was good. So goal 4.3. In the first one, I guess, which is A, support creation of a shelter and land trust to assist with the acquisition and management of land for community housing. I wanted to just swap out support for investigate.
Okay.
I'm sorry, where?
On page 60,
60, yeah.
goal 4.3, the first one, instead of.
The first bullet point.
Yes,
You wanted to put out what?
instead of support creation of a shelter and land trust, because I don't know if we're on board with that, so I'd rather see investigate.
Yeah, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
What, just
Investigate.
Instead of
investigate?
support.
Investigate creation of a shelter and land trust.
Yeah, I like the idea in general, but we don't know anything about it.
Right.
So-
Yeah. In the next one, it speaks to,
Residents control that.
pardon?
Which
Where are you?
paragraph?
Oh, no, I was in the next, what would be B?
Oh, this one.
Yeah, we have to get those letters. Yeah. So under the proactively identify sites, since we have already, we're using the Manwaring site, I would just like to add that one in, because it speaks to 12 Southbury Road and 69 Southbury Road. I would just like to add the 2 residents at whatever number Manwaring Road it is.
You want to make a stronger statement here? I mean, the town should be certainly continue to identify, but town needs to buy more land to do this.
With what money?
Well, we do have bonding
I
capability.
mean, that's always the question people
Yeah.
come back with.
Yeah.
We haven't had a fund, but now we have the 0.5%, which we could towards
We
purchasing
have that,
it.
and if it's something really important and significant, we can bond for it.
Mhm.
But I don't know, it's just, do you want to make a stronger statement here or not? It's not that important.
To actively pursue.
Yeah, something like that.
I like it. The town should actively pursue identifying suitable locations.
Yeah. If you really want to protect this community, we have to build housing. We just have to.
Anything else on page 60?
Establish a low-interest loan program? Is that where we are?
Yes.
Okay. Sources of funding on the next page, which could include local government budgets? We want that? We want government funds, town funds to go into low-interest loan program?
Talking about tax dollars, that's what we're talking about.
It's just, I mean,
It's a list of all
local,
the
yeah, it's just, yeah, it's just a place.
It's not our budgeting.
Yeah, so it could be from budget, it could be from transfer taxes, it could be from grants, it could be from partnerships or leveraging other housing-related programs and resources. It's just putting forth the smorgasbord of places we can get money from.
Do we want to go as far as to say that we won't use tax dollars? But isn't that what people are gonna be concerned about?
That's why I don't
Everybody's okay with
use tax
I was
dollars.
getting a grant for it.
Mhm.
Everyone's probably half okay with us bonding to do things.
Although we didn't put
But the
bonding,
raised taxes,
we didn't put bonding in here.
you probably should.
But if we put bonding in here, then do we have to back it up with debt service on the budget?
Yeah,
Well,
we
I
do.
was gonna say, isn't bonding government money? Isn't
Yeah,
that like-
Yeah, you have to pay it back.
Yeah, so
A lot of
I
towns
mean,
don't
local
ever pay
government
it
funds.
back, actually. Maybe you don't have to put it in here, maybe, oh, do we want an affirmative statement to basically say we're gonna find grants to do this?
Well, we already have grants. This is about creating a low-interest loan program,
Yeah.
which could be done with the transfer tax money that the Community Housing Board now
Which is
has.
fine.
They could set up some kind of program,
Yeah.
partnership with CDCLI and things like that. So, I
Okay,
mean, it's just listing all the options.
but do you wanna exclude
Well, actually, yeah,
as one of
because
those
it is,
options?
yeah, I was gonna say, actually, if it is low interest loans, then, yeah, we could bond for it and then debt service is from the,
Tax dollars.
yeah, from the people, not from tax
No,
dollars,
from them
from the
paying back
people
their
paying,
loan.
yeah, unless they default.
Yeah.
And then
Another
another
issue.
different problem.
Yeah, yeah,
You repo the house at least.
Yes, yeah, but we'd have to continue paying the debt service.
I mean, if you want to take local government budgets out, it can just include transfer tax revenue, grants, partnerships with financial institutions, or leveraging other housing-related programs and resources, you know.
Thank you for that.
Let's just
I
scratch.
think that's
Okay.
the right answer.
Okay, we'll just scratch it. Goal 4.4,
There's no mention of strengthening the wetlands law in this.
Not in the housing chapter, it's in the environmental.
Shouldn't it be here though?
In housing?
To be mentioned.
Yeah,
Well, because this talks
It
about,
talks about nearshore overlay.
I mean, that we're considering, implementing the 100-foot setback. No new buildings and structures. No ADUs in the nearshore overlay. Shouldn't we strengthen this?
Well, no, it addresses it, just not directly with regards to the wetlands code. So this is talking about incorporating the potential for a small lot ordinance and a neutral overlay that would,
I'd like to see the protection measures of the nearshore overlay put in this.
Okay.
That's,
you'll draft something?
okay, sure, definitely.
yes, I agree. I kind of had the same note.
The adopted tree preservation local law section is in chapter 7. So I didn't know if it was really needed here. I mean, we want our housing to be sensitive, but part of the tree preservation local law is broader than just the housing chapter.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be here. I think it was here just because it impacts development, like building construction,
Mm-hmm,
restricting clearing.
mm-hmm. I mean, we can keep it in both places. I guess we've got other things.
I mean, it
that-
doesn't have to be in both places. We can take it out of this
Mhm.
chapter and just leave it in chapter 7.
Want to reference it from here to chapter 7? Or is that a waste of paper? Anything to make this thing shorter than it is.
That's a little where I was coming from.
Well,
It's like, wait, this is a repeat. And I thought it was better in chapter 7.
yeah, so we'll take it out of chapter 4. It's expanded upon in chapter 7.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's
So
broader.
it's more defined. So we'll take it out of chapter 4.
Any issues with goal 4.5 or 4-5?
We kind of already do, don't we? I mean, I've seen subdivisions. I mean, every subdivision I bothered looking at here had some sort of requirement for leaving open space.
Mhm.
But maybe it's not actually in the legislation.
I think the recommendation is more to increase the amount of open space that we
Right,
can
yeah, I was gonna
require.
go from 10% to 30%.
Yeah.
I think that's good. But who decides, the set aside area? Who decides if it gets, if it's for public or private use? How's that decided?
Zoning board.
No, the
Yeah,
planning board,
sorry.
yeah, planning board.
Oh, interesting. So we're writing this as a roadmap for the future. Town board has no control over the planning board. So
Yes,
does the
you're
planning
right.
board have to read this, or do they do what they want to do?
All committees were given this,
Mhm.
so we can ask to recirculate it and have them.
Yeah.
I mean, comprehensive plan applies to
Okay.
the
so-
town in totality.
Amber, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry,
When you're facing
Oh,
that
yes,
way,
sorry.
I can't hear you.
okay. The planning board, all the committees were asked to read through the comprehensive plan. So the planning board should have gone through this, but we can send it, like, once our next draft, we can send it back to them, or we can, they would have been copied on this draft as well.
I didn't have a comment, I just had a sticky.
Mhm.
So, there you go.
Okay, chapter 5.
Here's a language thing. Second paragraph, after the bold, it says as previously.
Noted is what I was gonna write there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, unless you had a better word.
nah, that's fine. It was just one missing.
You got that, Coco?
No, I didn't.
Page 64, summary key findings, the second paragraph.
As previously noted, comma.
Yeah, the blue is okay, but the black language as previously noted.
Okay.
Reading through the third paragraph, I was just wondering, so you said all the committees read this, like, did the Heights Property Owner Association review this and have input?
Yes, we've had significant public
Oh,
input
yeah, I
from
was
the
gonna say,
houses.
yeah, they're,
Significant.
Okay.
yeah, they had multiple submissions too.
Your tailored design provisions. Okay. So what are we saying about the Chamber of Commerce here? Are we saying we should strengthen it, we should do something with it, should we? It's already kind of supported. Aren't those positions paid?
Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah,
It's a totally,
totally volunteer.
Mhm.
Even
mean-
the chairman?
the secretary and I think just the secretary gets paid.
Oh, okay.
So the next one, shellfishing, should just be one word. We can decide. And that happens all
Okay.
over the stuff, so with that particular phrase.
This paragraph, not. I guess my issue here is I don't think it's complete. For instance, legacy industries such as boating, which is true. Then it goes on, many strategies in the town employ to support and even expand agriculture and aquaculture. Those two things are very good and fully support that. But there's also the environmental nature aspect of this that should be supported. For instance, the town should work more with Shomek. And the waterfront-based activities and industries. Someone once told me that the Shelter Island Yacht Club has 100 employees. That is not an insignificant part of this community. And the club supports 400 families that live here. They deserve a mention here somewhere. Gardner's Bay Country Club, probably another good example of that. And the town needs to learn how to work better with Gardner's Bay Country Club.
I feel like we have some, we have call outs in the.
I mean, this is more about fishing and boating.
Yeah,
Right, I was gonna say, this is about like legacy industries, like
Yeah, there are
Yacht
Bayman
Club.
type industries.
Although this is,
Yacht
yeah, I
Club
mean,
was established in 1886. I call that a legacy industry.
Yeah, I mean, if
well,
they'll help us achieve some complementary environmental goals like aquaculture does, then.
Absolutely. They already do. They're working with Cornell and the Oyster Program. I'm just saying they're just missing from this paragraph. Do I have to rewrite that one too?
Well, legacy industries such as boating, fishing, shellfishing, and farming remain a vital, if no longer major part of Shelter Island employment. They are characteristic of the island's heritage and still have the potential to provide local jobs and stimulate economic activities. There are many strategies the town could employ to support and even expand agriculture and aquaculture while also achieving complementary environmental goals. I don't see how in this particular summary, there's room to call out specific businesses.
Well, you don't have to call out specific businesses. You can, my comment was expand waterfront-based activities. The marinas in town.
Well, no, because we had a very, very, very vocal opposition to allowing the expansion of marinas. And so that's why this is focused more on the historic fishing industry, shellfishing industry, the sort of like the Bayman culture of living off the water.
Well, that's absolutely something that should be called out and noted and supported, but it's half the story. You don't have to expand the marinas, but they're there. We should be supporting them. And once again, the activities at the yacht club support 100 jobs and 400 families.
I have a slightly different take on this paragraph because I think the operative phrase in here is remain a vital if no longer major.
Right.
Well, that's what triggered it, by the way.
This is for legacy.
Yeah, so the yacht club is still vital and
And
contributing.
it is major.
Whereas where we used to have a lot more baymen, a lot more fishermen, that industry has shrunk. So I thought the focus was on that specifically. I mean, maybe we need another,
So I would add another whole other paragraph.
yeah, I was gonna say, so in our summary of key findings, then maybe support for
That's fine.
the other legacy industries. I mean, tourism and second homeowner and seasonal residents is a legacy industry for Shelter Island.
Good solution to this problem. There's a paragraph missing.
We need to make sure that that paragraph also refers back to something in the actual chapter. So whatever paragraph you create in the key findings, it needs to relate back to some text and, right, forward to. So, so the legacy industries one does relate back to a section about the legacy economic sectors and, the impact that they've had. And, what we still have is viable, how now we have a lot of little farm stands. You have farm stands like the one at Sylvester Manor, Allentown Farm, Phillips Farm Stands, giving examples of how it's still here. It may not be as extensive as it used to be, but they help give the island its character.
Yeah, I mean, the tie-in to the economy, which is what this chapter is about, is the 400 families that live on this island and spend money on this island and support the island businesses and support the island cultural institutions. And I mean, the tie-in is obvious.
So then that should go in the businesses on Shelter Island section, if you wanted to beef that up regarding exactly what businesses do what, as it goes into,
Well, this is what, summary of key findings?
yes.
So, yeah, we have to tie it into something that comes later, right? Here, yeah. It's a super change.
Yeah, I mean, I've underlined, like, if you're trying to find tie-ins, there are several marine-related businesses on Shelter Island, including dock building, marinas, boat repair, maintenance, boat building, boat storage, and aquaculture. Then further down, there's many more part-time recreational participants in fishing and shellfishing.
Because it ties
that was-
into an point, sorry. Ann.
Yeah, so that would speak to ones that are still vital or have become vital.
Only concern with calling out specific businesses is that you may neglect to call out other businesses of equal importance. So
Well, we can talk, I mean, if you want to keep it short, maybe that is one way to look at it, but. Because here you have this chart on page 69. It seems to call out sectors.
right.
Fit on this. And they're just big chunks of the economy. This is the economy sector. I mean, if the yacht club employs 100 people, God knows how many people Gardner's Bay Country Club.
But see, that's the thing. If you're going to give the statistics for the yacht club, then you have to give the statistics for Gardner's Bay Country Club, for the Prigman, for the Chequip, for, all the,
Well, we can talk
Kind of
about it as
for-
the,
but I don't know that you need that level of detail because that could change in 2 years if the property sells or something happens. So it's more trends that you're looking for in the chapter. I mean, there's even like a paragraph in here about what businesses changed hands during COVID, and I don't necessarily think we need that.
but when it comes to trends, we're moving more towards a service recreational economy on this island, and it's not mentioned here.
Well, we've always been a service
Oh,
based economy. The difference is now a lot of those businesses are being owned by off-island entities, not local.
A lot have appeared and grown even. I mean, but that's enough, but the trend you just mentioned is also an important aspect of it.
Right. No, because, I mean, if you're gonna add a paragraph in the beginning is, the key findings are summary blurbs from the text in the chapter. So if you add more text to the chapter, you can add summary of that text. You know what I mean? Because,
How do you want to approach this? Let's see. This makes me think, like, the info alpha characteristics chart, I mean. Makes me, this is all from the census.
We did have a question about the labor force and jobs on the island, chart 19. Is this, it was just based on census, so if someone said that they worked in the,
Yeah, because these charts include entertainment and recreation, which is quite a large chunk of the economy, yet there's no text about the entertainment recreational part of the economy. And there's no piece in the summary, no paragraph in the summary about the entertainment recreational part of the economy.
well, like, my question more had to do with like, was it full-time equivalents? Because you say the output employs 100 people, but they employ 100 people for a short period of time. So if we do a full-time equivalent, it's only 25 people.
right.
It's still a lot of people.
Yeah,
Full
no,
time.
I was just curious, like, what this chart reflects, if it,
I mean, that's probably right, by the
It's based on the
way.
census,
Right.
so it's
however the census would do it, which is probably long term.
equivalent, it would be the short term. I mean, you're not gonna have someone who comes out here for 3 months by filling out the census.
Right, yeah, no, and I'm thinking more of the labor force,
Right.
or no, the jobs on the island piece.
I mean, what's super interesting
You
is
know, the blue, the jobs on the island blue, like, was that FTEs
Right.
as opposed to,
like
high
full-time
season.
equivalent, now maybe 25 or 30 people, but 20 years ago, it was probably 5 or 10.
Mhm.
So there is a growth over time. It's a trend that is quite significant. You and Art were running the club. What was the full-time equivalent? That was 2000, that was 1996.
yeah, it's like 30 years ago.
1996.
Um,
I don't even know what it is
I was
now.
gonna say, I need to go back that far.
Yeah, I
But
don't
the
even know
sail,
what it
the
is now.
sailing, you know, the sailing program was much smaller,
Yeah,
the restaurant was probably slimmer too.
and there was, as far as full-time
Mhm.
staff, there was only 2 people.
Yeah, probably on the books, around 2, 3 people.
That's a real significant trend. I'm just saying, it seems like this chunk's missing, that's all. I can help correct it, but, you know. So before page 72, gotta fit in before page 72.
So that's something to be worked out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep moving. My next point was on page 67, which speaks to naming specific businesses. And if you, on page 67, under legacy economic sectors, 1, 2, third paragraph down, we named Sylvester Manor, Island Time Farm, and Kibbs Farm Stand, which needs space if we're keeping it. But do we want to, like, again, get into naming specific businesses, or just we have 3 larger
Sorry.
4 farms and smaller ones?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind taking out the names. I feel like they could be here today, gone tomorrow. I don't know that it's necessary. So there are stands that serve larger farms. Small, and then you can just take out. And say there are many farm stands on Shelter Island ranging from large to small. Then these farm stands are a source of jobs and income.
How do you feel about the opening sentence? No longer significant drivers.
Where are you? Location?
Of 767, right at the top.
Oh. They're not
What are
really
the-
nouns.
What are related? I mean, a lot of people come here to vote.
So I think that's a different industry. That goes more into recreation and hotels. This is maybe more
I would agree with
shell
that.
fishing, fishing. So maybe it's not water, I
It's
mean, it's water.
aquaculture.
Mhm, right, it's
That's-
maybe instead of water-related enterprises.
Change it to
change
aquaculture.
Yeah.
That is okay.
So silly question, does aquaculture include fishing or is that a separate industry? Because I feel like aquaculture is more like shellfishing and seaweed growth. Let's look it up.
I don't know, since I don't fish.
Yeah, when we, on the summary of key findings, after we talk about the legacy industries of boating, fishing, shellfishing, and farming, we do
Yeah, it
just
does include
condense it
fish.
down to agriculture.
It includes fish, shellfish, algae growth, all those things, so that it all works, aquaculture.
Yay. Cross reference comment. Yay. So you guys are talking about what, the third paragraph?
Yes.
Mhm.
Are you gonna take out all the names?
Yeah, so what I changed it to is there are stands that serve larger farms and smaller stands that subsidize small homeowner gardens and sell extra eggs from family chickens. Can I say it again? Want me to say it again, or?
Yes, please.
I'm striking like Sylvester Manor, Island Time Farm.
Right, I have that out.
Strike Phillips Farm, stand 2, strike that. So there are stands that serve larger farms and smaller stands.
Which is your favorite private egg cooler on the island?
I would never give up that information.
Exactly. It's top secret. It's a small one that a friend has at the end of her driveway.
Residents feel are a source of job. I don't know, this is just whatever comment. The last sentence of this paragraph, these farm stands are a source of jobs and income for farms. Homeowners like to provide service that should be supported. It's such a, to me, no one else might feel this way. It's such an important part of the culture and the feel of the island. These little farm stands, these honesty boxes.
Yeah.
Sounds like it deserves a mention to me.
What do you mean?
No, sentence here, something about how these things, yeah, they should be supported and they, they're an important part of island culture.
They should be supported and are an important part of island culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an important comment, but,
That's good.
just something I care about.
Say culture?
Yes.
Yes. Mhm. And I'm now gonna follow Meg around until I find out what her favorite egg cooler is.
I have my own chicken. I don't need an egg cooler. Something that I tripped over
There are 6 private owners of underwater property, in
Yes.
addition to the
Oh,
town, county,
yeah.
and state.
I wanted to ask that, who are they?
Yeah.
And why?
GIS.
How did they get, did the
Yeah.
town sell them the land?
I do not know, but when I look on the tax map, there are 6 private owners of underwater.
Like Cockles Harbor Marina being one of them?
I do not believe so.
He's looking for that.
Suffolk County owns a couple of them.
Suffolk County is the owner. Okay.
No, that's in addition to town, county, and state. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do it for right now, but at some point, we'd be curious.
Figure it out, make a list and share that with me along with a dozen of your eggs.
Here's one. Outside water.
Outside water.
All right, on page 68, the chart 18. The color blue needs to be changed to something different.
It's too dark,
Yes,
so make it a light blue maybe?
yes. Yeah, because it's just that 56% held by non-residents is really hard to read.
So if it's light blue and it hits the orange in the middle of the Venn diagram, what color is it?
It'll still be green.
It's
It's just the blue that's changing color.
Yeah.
They didn't actually work their color theory here very well. That would be a very horrific brownish color.
That's true.
Oh, on that page, at the beginning of that page, with the year-round population of Shelter Island slowly trending up, including an unnatural jump in 2020 due to the pandemic. Unnatural is this?
Unanticipated, unexpected. It
Yes,
doesn't
any of
follow,
those.
it doesn't follow the common trend of our population increase in the season. It was unnatural to what we would typically experience, I think is where they were going with that.
Yeah,
So it's
another
like the
word.
same thing
Yeah,
happened.
I do like
I mean, we
it.
can come up
A new
with
word
another
would be
word,
good,
that's
yeah.
fine.
Another word.
But,
Any other word? Unanticipated,
uncommon,
uncommon,
Uncommon.
unique.
What?
Unique. Uncommon, I like uncommon.
yeah. I mean, because it happened after 9/11. It typically happens when there's a large event like that. It scares people and they want to come somewhere safe and hide.
After that page.
Yeah.
Sure, 20% of workforce.
Just moving to page 71, the first paragraph, the former Capital One Bank building.
Right, that's what I'm saying, this paragraph, I don't know that we need to.
Yeah.
Starting with post-COVID?
Yeah. Because I feel like it's a tiny blip and now it's settling out.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, I mean, there's just, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in these pages.
So I feel like what we,
What supports what we really,
I think this was in response to some comments we had about big developers coming in and changing everything. And the point was that with all the turnover we've had, only one business had actually changed its use. Everything else maintained its existing use. So maybe instead of listing all these things, because I don't know if that's necessary, take out all the names. So we could say, post-COVID commercial activity has rebounded on the island, and there have been changes of ownership in many longstanding notable island businesses. With these changes, only one business has had a change of use. And then just get rid of that last part. The historic hotels and inns have been renovated and updated while maintaining the traditional character of their facade. I don't know that we need to.
You already crossed it out.
We don't necessarily need the paragraph. I mean, I think we could cross the whole thing out, but if we wanted to just show that there was kind of a change in ownership or revitalization, we could say it happened without significant change in the usage of any of these buildings,
I think that's important,
right?
or, you know, certainly useful to say.
Yeah.
But there's no liaison to the Chamber of Commerce, should there be?
I'm a member. So I try and go to their events. And, you know, dinner meetings or whatever they have, so. So,
That's close enough. After all, they're one supervisor.
Member of the community. Citizen Amber with business ties.
Like this, all right.
are we on to goals and recommendations?
I think so. And we're adding entertainment and recreation section at a later date. Before we turn the page.
What?
At the bottom of 71, we're going to add a paragraph or section about entertainment and recreational activities on the island. Because they are such a big piece of the economy.
Okay.
Who's gonna
I
write
mean-
it, and where are we getting the information from?
Yeah.
Not me.
Well, I'm not writing it because I don't know what you want, so you have to write it. And then there is in the quality of life, it talks about, and in the, there's one about water recreation in the quality of life, it talks about different types of business. It also talks about recreation departments, and then in parks, open space and waterways, there's like a recreation section that talks about the different water-related businesses. So, let me see.
I'll take a stab at it.
Yeah, I had written down. Actually, I didn't put Gardner's Bay Country Club or the Yacht Club in that section. I did put the Shelter Island Country Club though,
Yeah.
because it is a
'cause it's
town-owned property.
So we had gone through and like listed everything and it just looked ridiculous, like it was too much information and too of the moment. And since this is supposed to be a planning document, we did cut a bunch of stuff out of it because it didn't really make sense. So, and we can go back and see where it should be added back in.
I'll take a shot at it. See what we can get to.
Okay.
Entertainment and what then?
Well, it's kind of entertainment and recreation, could be some sort of nature aspect to it as well. Let me kind of get into it. I mean, they're big pieces of our economy. I mean,
It's Christina, screen.
Shelmick is
He should be removed.
2,000 acres. Western Manors, 250 acres. I'll see what I can
Yeah,
get.
but they get a lot of, they're talked about in chapter 9.
I'm not sure I want to talk
And
about all those
chapter-
things specifically, though. I want to talk about the segment of the economy.
Okay.
Like, go get some water.
Yeah.
I remember recreation is brown.
Yes.
Okay, yes. It is.
Well, should make a motion to go on recess.
Make a motion that we recess.
Second,
Since everybody-
second,
Albert, can you second my motion that we
Second.
recess?
and we'll pretend another one's there, all in favor?
We all just leave, does that automatically recess? Is that-
Exactly. What's going on?
People still in?
Some people are still here.
No, we did it.
I think it's not the.
And for Jan to say that, and for Jan.
We finally agree.
Jan usually has much more stamina. He's not his usual self today, I think he's.
I'm going through all day there.
Oh, we're here all day.
Yeah,
Is there an executive
we have to
session?
go into recess because.
Is there an executive session? I
Oh,
didn't see it on the.
sorry.
No,
Yes, there is, come back.
I couldn't see my
What about?
snacks, they were hiding.
We have a special meeting and then we have executive session. It's a 2-page agenda.
I agree with Jan.
What's the comment?
That we should go.
We should go.
That this is enough for today, he says.
Then I want to schedule another meeting.
Mm-hmm. We'll never get through it.
Now, in chapter 17. I mean, what's that, all right?
Chapter 42.
Nice day out.
Can we do this outside?
No. I want to get sunburned.
I got my sugar fixed, but.
Jan, you want me to get you a Red Bull? You want me to get you a Red Bull?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I actually have some in the refrigerator. I'm not allowed to drink them anymore.
They broke me, Jan.
Yeah, he's waving the white flag. No mas, no mas.
It's a wait and go camping. Have a good one, all.
See you later.
Hi, Tom.
It'll be on Zoom, you can watch it later.
I will, don't worry, I will.
So much fun.
I'll come over and watch it with you, Tommy.
Make popcorn, it'll be a whole event.
That's what we needed.
Aw, Mick's here, now everything's better.
A therapy dog.
Borrow this.
Wow, we scared everybody away.
Okay, so we were up to goals and recommendations, 5-1.
Mhm.
I do like the consideration of additional uses in the B1 zone.
How did we get there? Because B1 is this building.
Right, so B1 expands beyond just the municipal buildings. So it also includes
My old office building.
Yep. Here we go.
No? So is that building a pre-existing non-conforming use?
I'll share my
Do
screen.
a screen share on it, yeah.
Yep. So. So B1 is this darker red color. Oh. There it goes. It's this darker red color. So it goes down.
Let's see.
Past.
Yep.
So these are all the municipal buildings right here.
Wow. that's
Police
like that, I see.
station, Justice Hall, bank. This is the old reporter building. So all of these buildings are in the B1 zone. So some of these are businesses.
So are those businesses then pre-existing non-conforming?
No,
So they're allowed in B1?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, like when I, 30 some odd years ago, moved into that, no, 27 years ago, moved into that building, like, because I offered professional services that fit in the B1 zone.
Okay.
So you need-
Oh, yeah.
You need to have.
Doctors, yeah.
Yes. I mean, so, but this zone was also put over some existing residential structures. So, you know, there are some things that are pre-existing forming in here, but they're homes or, you know, so it just gives the potential for people to do something other than just pure office space, because we're finding that people don't necessarily need to just rent office space when you can work remotely out of your home. You don't need an office
I have a
somewhere.
garage.
Exactly. So this would hopefully give people a little more flexibility who own businesses in that B1 zone.
Okay. I don't have a problem with this,
Mhm.
in theory.
Mhm.
As always, it's about the
I mean, there's the town board review of the B1 zone, and I think, we should keep that. To monitor what goes in there, or have control over what goes in, or allow an application, but just keep the review. Just leave it alone.
Just take that out?
No. It still requires a special permit.
Not for the tenants themselves.
Oh, is that what you're saying, Albert?
What do you mean?
Yeah, that the town board has review of B1.
Of the actual occupants?
No, it requires a special permit from the town board for all non-governmental uses.
I think we should just keep it, yeah,
That's what's in here.
okay.
Okay, so
All right.
if someone wanted to take my office space and turn it into a retail space.
Right.
Then
Then I
they
really,
have to give stuff.
But,
So-
but the town may consider removing the special permit provision.
Right.
I think we need the special permit. They need to come to the town board for a special permit. Not remove it.
Right. Because the thought was that you can give some of those, like, B1 zoned areas. I mean, really, the government buildings in the B1 zone are really the only ones that kind of fall into that. I mean, the thought was originally that it would be beneficial to expand the B zone to cover the part of the B1 zone that doesn't include the municipal center. So the businesses down there, like the bank and the pizza place across the street from it, and those buildings would be kind of absorbed into the B zone instead of having it designated as B1. And then they'd still have to go for a special permits if they're changing their use or anything. But it makes it so much harder for businesses to start up. So we have a whole bunch of vacant buildings right across the street here. They're all in B1 zone. For example, what used to be Feedy's couldn't be Feedy's anymore. It would have to be just a basic office space unless they come for a special permit asking for a change of use to some kind of other business.
I think the town would probably trip over itself to approve that.
Right,
Yeah.
but it's adding an extra layer of burden to a business that's trying to get started, knowing that we have such a seasonal and fluctuating economy, and it's hard to start up a new business. The thought is to not make it any harder than it already is for a business to survive. In an area where we obviously would like some businesses to be thriving.
There is a substantial roadblock
I'm not sure the problem.
in the areas that we're
Right.
talking about.
The zone.
But I think the town board should keep the special permit provision. I mean, somebody's gonna go in, let's review it. If it's an addition, a positive addition,
They'll already get reviewed for site plan. Like, they do have to go through site plan if it's a business.
the special permit, I think we should keep. I think the town board should maintain that.
I mean, let's take out that last sentence and I'm good.
What that said to back.
Oh, the town may consider removing the special permit provisions which add an extra level of review and burden for new businesses.
Okay.
Rest of it, I'm fine.
I don't think it's not saying the town has to, it says it's something that they may want to consider.
I don't think it hurts to go through the review.
This isn't saying they would go through no review, just would need a special permit in addition to site plan.
I feel like so it'd be special permit and site plan review.
Right.
Do we want to force, I mean, it would be concurrent reviews, but I have a feel it's sort of the same.
They can be done together and it's not a bad thing for the town to have a hand in what all this looks like going forward.
The site plan review would accommodate that. We just have two permits to,
Right.
deal with, which
Well, and if
one should be sufficient.
right now, the town board is running both of those review
That's true.
process, but in the future, if it's not, and site plans in one jurisdiction and then special permits in another, then it's harder to, you can really do a concurrent review. It's two applications, two fees, double the time.
I don't agree. I just think, if the special permit allows us to judge what somebody wants to put there. And do we allow it or not? And then the site plan review follows that.
A design guidance for Route 14. With Heights and the business community. But we've done that already. We've talked to the Heights and the Chamber of Commerce looked at this too. Or
Do not
the
believe,
business community in some.
Not as an organization.
I don't believe the organization itself looked at it.
That be of any benefit?
Yeah, we can send it to them and ask them to.
Okay.
Which part are you looking at?
Provide design guidance for Route 114 corridor. Usual. I mean, this parking thing, this is a small thing, but this is This is where some town planning expertise could be helpful. I mean, one space per 200 or one space per 250 square feet, I mean, some outside expertise would be helpful.
The consultants are planners.
That's true, they are.
Who did this document.
Instead of giving a specific recommendation, should we just say the ratio is high and we can consider reducing it in the future? Or, I don't know, some language along those lines?
My question is the existing on-street parking requirement, oh, so that's per our code.
Right.
Okay.
Because we're giving a specific recommendation, aren't we then, in the future, aren't you kind of locked into that recommendation?
No, not at all. You're really not. It's saying it could be reduced to one space for 250, it could be reduced to anything else. But then it goes on to say that there's also, you could establish parking based on the type of use instead of
Yeah, I'm okay
just
with
a flat
that.
number, because that kind of makes more sense. If you have a restaurant, more people are gonna need to park there for a longer period of time. Like the bank, people are always going in and out, so you don't need as much parking because it's turning over.
No, I'm okay with that part of it. I just wonder if it's helpful to have the specific recommendation, but yeah, this is minor stuff.
I don't think it's harmful.
Parking is pretty tough on the island here now, especially in the summer. I don't think we should really be talking about reducing it. I mean, there's no parking.
Well, if these open areas are developed, we're creating parking. Question is, what kind of parking we create?
No, but if somebody builds a commercial building and we're limiting the parking around it, I don't know if that's such a good thing, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like making.
Well, maybe we just say, we can state what it is now, 5 per 1,000, and then jump down to parking requirements could also be established by the type of use. Take up the recommendation middle bit.
Yeah, you can do that.
Mhm.
Anything else for 5.1? Oh, wait, we have something here.
The only thing that I tripped over was in the last paragraph under the Heights and Bridge Street one, on the right-hand side.
Mhm.
It says site plan review by the planning board. That's actually the town
Ooh.
board.
Didn't even see that.
Where's that now, Amber?
As far as site plan review, period,
Yeah.
because that could change again, who knows?
That's right.
These two areas are just.
Although then we have to change they to the town can specify architectural. Because,
I think the Heights does a pretty good job about specifying.
yeah, no, but it's a site plan review by the town. We're taking the
town.
planning board, so now they doesn't make any sense.
Maybe just say it.
Yeah, I just caught
Yeah.
Also higher up in that paragraph,
Mhm.
it talks about the historic nature of these hamlets, properties were to be redeveloped. But are we also concerned about renovating existing structures in these little hamlets? Because it goes on to say, strict design guidelines for development coverage.
But it's any new development or redevelopment. So development or renovation.
Well, let's see, to provide guidance to ensure new buildings are complementary to the existing urban fabric. What about substantially renovated buildings? Don't we want them to be?
Wait, so where are you?
Very top of that paragraph. While these two areas are historic hamlet centers, if properties were to be redeveloped, the zoning doesn't provide guidance to ensure new buildings are complementary to the existing urban fabric. But what if they take fees and basically
So go
gut
down.
renovate it?
But if you go down the next sentence, to like these, you're incorporating any new development or redevelopment, so maybe instead of redevelopment, renovation.
Renovation.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, okay, any new buildings or renovations. Because redevelopment might be different.
I mean, redevelop it could include a change of use, it
Yeah,
could be,
yeah, so
you know,
renovations, new
anything.
buildings and renovations, okay. I'm with you on that one.
I didn't get that.
Okay, so on the right-hand side,
Yeah.
second paragraph, all these two areas. So third line, to ensure new buildings and renovations.
Mm-hmm. 5.2?
I agree too.
Sure.
Mhm.
I mean, the first.
Yay, we found something non-controversial.
High-speed
I
internet.
don't know
I'm good
about
with.
the onboard expertise to do such a thing, but I used to have that expertise. It's quite dated now. This next paragraph, establish standards for home-based businesses in residential areas. Consider expanding permitted residential use. What are we trying to do here?
It's back
So-
to zoning.
For example, you have little pop-up sheds, like the lettuce lady.
Yep.
So that's kind of her home-based business. You can go there, grab a salad, pay her $10.
She in C-zone then?
She is.
So that's allowed, isn't it?
Yes and no. Technically,
Sounds like everything in our code.
exactly, that's the issue. I mean, in reality, we probably shouldn't have farm stands either, because nothing's supposed to look like a business unless it's in the B zone. So this is just kind of trying to make some wiggle room and allowance for people to do little things like this that add to the character of the community. Like have their farm stands or their cooler of eggs at the end of their driveway. So it's trying to continue that tradition. But
I mean,
making
not-
sure that those businesses also don't go overboard and create problems for the neighbors. Make
Yes,
sure they stay in line with,
adverse effects, that was my comment. I
Right.
scribbled in the margin here.
right, so, you know, part of this is that we have regulating home businesses is currently done on an ad hoc basis. So we should kind of revisit the regulations and guidelines to ensure that home-based businesses operate in a manner that's compatible with the residential character of the neighborhoods. So maybe update the list of qualifying businesses in residential zones, and focus on the potential for impacts of noise, smell, visual traffic, and maybe label some inappropriate uses for
Yeah.
residential zones.
Can we put that in there?
It is in there. I just read the paragraph. I read the paragraph. You're killing me, Smalls.
Okay, I'm fine with it. Anything else in science?
How do we do that? How do you propose doing it? I think it's good.
It would be a future zoning code
Right.
change.
And it says that the town might consider having certain uses be allowed by special permit, so that there's a review process depending on what the use is and what the request is. So it gives some ideas of the last paragraph of that section.
No, I think it's good. I think home businesses should be supported, just have a little more control.
Yeah,
There
just
are,
make sure that,
there are
you know.
instances where
right,
there's
You know.
been issues, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Where does that stand? Well,
Yeah, you don't want someone testing fireworks as a business in their front yard or something.
If we go back to page 43,
43?
yes, I'm going to the summary of all the zoning recommendations.
Have you not seen the latest, political rally, no going back?
No.
Just kidding.
I am focused. So 5.2.c is 5.2.b,
Yeah.
establish standards for home-based businesses in residential areas.
Oh, got it.
Because we deleted, there was another one in
Yeah.
between that we got rid of.
Yeah.
So I'm just,
5, 2.
I'm continuing to claim,
I'm sure Coco got that one. 'Cause
yes,
I barely got it.
I did that.
I'll go over it. Yeah. We can do debriefs tomorrow. Or Thursday.
Okay. Apprenticeship program. 5.3.
This is. No, I think this is an awesome idea.
Mhm.
I think it should be bigger than this. I think the kids in Shelter Island should be offered an opportunity to take advantage of all the expertise that is here all the time. I mean,
Mhm.
for instance, like the part-time and summer people are here, if we have a bigger program that those people can participate in, there's all sorts of expertise there.
So that's covered under the score.org chapter. So if,
SCORE is retired people though. These are just
well,
people-
retired or part-time residents, it's pretty much anybody who lives here who wanted to be a participant, you know, you could expand it. But that's where that idea came from, to tap into,
If you got a kid in high school that wants to go into finance,
Mhm.
best thing you can do is hook them up with one of our part-time residents who is working in finance in Manhattan.
right,
And we should definitely be doing that.
And the school used to do, not like quite the apprenticeship thing, but they used to bring in, like I went in a couple of times, like the guidance counselor, like, here are people from finance-related fields. And so Bill Garrity and I were like in the working group. So the school has periodically done that. They just, I think.
who's the woman in Hay Beach? Mary, what was her name? She started the writing program in the library, mentoring kids to write. I can't remember. Pretty sick.
Mary Dwyer.
Yeah. Mary Dwyer, yes.
Mhm. Yeah, which I believe that program
Is
continues.
it still going? Yeah.
Yes, with the library.
And my only comment here was that it should be a bigger idea.
Mhm.
But you know, you can ignore that if you want.
Well, I mean, yes, I agree with you, but like many things on Shelter Island, it kind of needs to start small because we don't have that many people to run it and organize it and coordinate it. And so, you know, get to see if there's enough interest before it can grow and evolve. So I'm not opposed to making it a bigger thing, but first we have to make sure there's enough people to engage in it. Yeah.
Well, local businesses and local residents. How would we just change the title? Add that.
What?
Explore apprenticeship, getting tired.
My one comment though is, what do we have control over? Like, this is the town's comprehensive
Right.
plan, so telling the school and local businesses to do something.
Well, that's an argument for deleting this whole paragraph.
Well, the thought was that the town can work with the school and local businesses to gain, like, if there's someone who's interested in how town government works, the school can refer them to us.
Mhm.
If there's, I think there's a way to make it work both ways. So maybe not so many local businesses, but maybe more of a town school apprenticeship. But if you have someone who works in a local business, maybe they want to learn more about different career opportunities, and maybe they want to apprentice, like maybe they just work in the summer for someone in the town and they want to learn something new. I don't know,
It's a good thing we could just leave,
Yeah.
leave it as is, because
Okay.
we don't have control. To me, it was a fluff piece.
Oh, it is. It is. It's trying to get people engaged in town business, in town government, in some of the, town departments, we're always trying to hire, and if we can get people engaged and interested younger, then maybe they'll last longer.
Back to agriculture and aquaculture.
One thing here is we will need to add a goal 5-5 to cover the entertainment, recreation inside of the industries. And
I mean, the only thing with that is what influence does government have on private businesses? When you're thinking goal 5-5, what is that gonna look like, and what is government's role in that?
they have a role, they certainly regulate the activities.
I'm just
And-
saying, when you write it, keep that in mind.
Oh, okay, got it. Habitat restoration. I'm good to the last thing, so if anybody has anything
Okay.
before that.
So that concludes chapter 5.
Oh, what, the last paragraph.
Okay.
And I can take a shot at, my problem here is that there's a whole battle going on right now between the county leasing, the underwater areas for oyster beds and they tend to be putting them in places that are extremely inconvenient for certain activities without thinking twice about it and without even, let's just say, listening with a concerned ear from people who are having issues with it. I mean, they're putting them in the middle of navigable waters and waterways that are, frankly, some of them are a hazard. So this is great. It just needs to be better balanced with the other activities.
Well,
And if the town does it, it really needs to be better balanced. We don't have any control over the
No,
county.
we get notification from the county, and we get like a list of where these aquaculture leasing programs are gonna be, and my
Right.
recollection is there's only 2.
Well, in Shelter Island right now.
In Shelter Island
Yeah,
waters.
we're dealing with this issue on a much larger scale for all the Conic Bays, Shelter Island Bay, Gardner's Bay, Orient Harbor, Pipes Cove. And, we're at all the meetings and trying to offer input, which is not really being accepted. And if it comes down to this activity expanding more in Shelter Island waters, we just need to be careful. We have to acknowledge that there's a bigger balance that has to be applied.
yeah, and it says that we should
consider an updating regulatory framework, including permits, license, and environmental assessments.
Right.
And balancing this with other activities on and under the water.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, we're pretty conscientious about that. I mean,
But we should put it in here. I mean, I didn't spend a lot of time on this. I can try to write another bullet point for you if you want.
There are knowledge, aquaculture and boating are,
I mean, they don't
Can
have
be
to
in
They
conflict.
can be in conflict.
it can be in conflict.
The way the county is handling it, they're definitely in conflict.
Right,
Yeah.
but we don't have to
The county
handle it
just-
the way the
yeah.
county's doing it.
It's a narrow passage from one bay to another, and we're gonna lease all the land in the middle and let people put oyster fishing there and not care about any of the boats that need to go through.
So do you want to add something that wants to interface with county and state? Because it doesn't sound like it's our waterways that are the
Other
issue.
county has certain-
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so parents or people who apply.
Into them.
Yeah,
But
so I
if
mean,
the town is also going to do something, that's really what,
so we need to add something with
this
better
is happening.
coordination
yes.
to the, like, just not our waters, but the surrounding waters, is what you're saying.
Well, no,
And
I
also the
think,
activities on the waters.
right,
You need to talk to the organizations that are using these waters. And
Right, but what I'm saying is it's not under our jurisdictional control, so we need to open up a dialogue or strengthen the dialogue that we have with them
well, it depends. I
for
mean,
our
if
residents.
if we're looking to lease out the 150 feet from the shoreline that we own, that we have jurisdiction over, then that would have to be coordinated with all the other activities that happen in the area. So for example, when we're building the oyster reef, we looked around, we figured out what the best environmental location was for it. And then we talked to the baymen, and we talked to Cockles Harbor, and we made sure it didn't conflict with all the other activities that happen there before determining that that was the best location for the oyster reef. Essentially, if you're gonna lease land to somebody, you wanna go through that same process where you're making sure that first it's a viable location for whatever that aquaculture might be, but then you also wanna make sure that it's not gonna conflict with other businesses or recreational activities in the area. So I think, Benjamin, that's what you're trying to express.
yes, thank you, Beck.
But I took it one step further, like we are currently doing that for town waters for which we have jurisdiction. It sounds like the issue that you're raising is on waters
Oh, the county.
that we don't have
Yes.
jurisdiction. So the only thing that we can do is strengthen our relationships in conveying our things. So I think that's what you want to find, that's what you're asking us to add.
Well, I mean, here this is saying that the town wants to develop leasing guidelines for this. Those guidelines need to include a consideration for other activities in the area.
Mhm.
That's the point
Okay,
I'm
so
trying
you're
to
still,
make.
you're just focused
Yeah.
on town waters, what we have control over.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so then, in the very first sentence, this can be beneficial to, so consider leasing municipal waters for aquaculture. This can be beneficial to contribute to the growth of the aquaculture industry while ensuring environmental protection and community benefits. So maybe that's where we add something.
Or we could just,
Like, or community benefits including,
recreation.
or we could just add another bullet that says ensure that the
No
locations
conflict.
chosen take into account the common usage of the area and don't create significant conflict with other activities.
go with that.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll do that one.
Thank you, Meg.
Yeah, it's
It's a good-
Let's read that. Okay.
I was gonna say, so we just spent 2 hours finishing chapter 4 and
It's getting
going
giddy. We have
through
to stop.
5. We're at the 3-hour mark for this meeting,
Be fun.
and we still have the special meeting to do as well as executive session. So 6 will have to get bumped. Do we want to consider adding another work session to just go over chapter 6?
Well, let's,
We had part of chapter 4 left over, and now we have a whole chapter left over. So I'm just tossing it out there.
I don't,
Four was a big chapter.
I don't want to knock on wood and say, I don't think chapter 6 is going to be too bad, but
I don't have any pink
It's
stickies on.
transportation. Ben has no pink stickies. We might be
I
okay.
get through it 6, 7, and 8,
We
okay.
might,
All
we
right,
might
so
be
we'll
able to
make a
get through
determination
six.
after next week's work session. How about that?
Okay, yeah, perfect, I like
Keep us
I mean,
on-
I would anticipate 7 being a very long session, along with 8, and they go hand in hand, so.
that. Those are the two.
Okay. So I should try and keep next week's agenda light, which I think at this point is impossible.
I would say if there's no stickies, we.
More heavy agenda, just 6.
We might have a heavy agenda. And that bumps the chapter reviews. I'll take a look at it, but yeah, because we have public hearings that may or
So
may
it
not.
is a big chapter.
Yeah, and yes, public hearings which may or may not close next week, which, so
Let's,
we'll take a look.
remember, Scott, think about this.
I'll do a folder. Okay, I'll just like randomly throw stuff out there and if people have stuff to chime in on. Community Preservation Fund Advisory Board, they're working on the different stewardship plans, which they will be updating. They're working on the budget, and I have asked that they put the CPF acquisition plan back on the agenda for next month, so that we can get moving on that again finally, because
That'd be good.
it's been languishing all year, so.
Sounds good.
We have planning board. You wanna hit that one, Meg?
Planning board?
Yeah.
If you have your notes, I'm not ready for that one.
Okay, let's, I'll dig them up in a sec, I'm just looking at the calendar again. Green options. We had green, hold on. I guess the Green Expo is next weekend.
Yep.
So there was much organizational talk around that. Let's see what else I've got, let me just call it. Green option.
Green Expo is from 11 to 3 on Saturday, the 24th. We'll be there a little early to set up. And it's at the same time as the craft fair, so you can come and spend a whole day learning about lots of things and shopping for fun crafts.
And the ads were out, I've seen them, I've gotten them in my inbox. The town has been notified.
Yep.
Um,
With a little breakout for the archery program.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
That's going on that day, the
Oh,
final
yeah.
session, so we've all been invited to go check it out.
Yeah, so the archery tournament is August 24th at 9:15 in the morning at St. Gabe's Field. And so it's all the people who've been practicing all season. It should be about 45 minutes, it should be done by about 2 o'clock. So that should be fun.
that's great.
Yeah.
Good program, by the way.
Let's see. The IT committee met and a lot of it was just budget focused so that we have a plan moving forward. And there was just one larger ask with respect to archive software. But it has come down substantially in price, so we should hopefully be able to incorporate it into this year's budget. Laserfish, it used to be you needed like, like everything's up in the cloud now, which is bringing the price of everything down, which is good. So we just have to talk about getting it started to be implemented, moving forward with putting things into it, and then we can still try and pursue grants to, like, building department, has tons of records, historical records that would need to be, we'd want to have a grant and a consulting firm that would come in and take care, upload everything for us. So we'll probably do it in 2 phases under, if we approve at the budget to acquire the software, we'll work on how we want to lay everything out and then go back and start doing historical.
So the one other thing I guess we were talking about is we wanted a little bit better understanding of what we can get out of it once everything is in it.
Yes, which is like when you look at it, how do we put it in and how do we structure it so that it's easily accessible? And then what pieces are public-facing documents that we can make
Will
it
it-
easier and cut back on FOIL requests?
Will it be searchable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
Yes.
getting out of it part.
Right.
Planning board met last week. Pays bill, that talked about a number of, there was a wetlands app, I guess that was grandfathered into their purview before we took back wetlands authority. Public hearing, no comments. Another one was extended. Another one we're waiting for updated information and deeds. West Side Creek Cottages, we're waiting for a new plan. We rescheduled another public hearing. Reviewed an engineer's memo on a lot line change. There were some mistakes in the some of the paperwork that had to be corrected, so we had to reset that public hearing as well. No action or information or discussion of 7 Cheekwit. There's nothing new for the committee to consider at this moment. Let's see. The site plan review for Perlman Music is ongoing on a lot of different levels across many divisions of the town. Everyone seems to be working on it. And that's basically it.
The one thing that planning board did bring up that does impact us is the White's performance bonds. So just make sure you're keeping.
We met with Ian,
Okay.
and he
Perfect.
has,
It is-
and he has marching orders.
That was just the concern that came up, so that's the one that we addressed. Yeah, green options is really just getting ready for the expo.
Yeah. East End supervisors and mayors met last week. The majority of the session was focused on the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal. So they spoke most of the time. And one of the things, and this is the pro-housing community thing, and if we want to get any state funding on housing going forward, we will have to be pro-housing certified. And there was miscommunication at the Suffolk County Supervisors meeting last month about the timing of applying, but it's a rolling application, so we can continue. So there's information that we have to pull together, building permits, housing starts, a whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to continue to work on that. Meg has some information from comp plan that we can use to fill in. Building department's going to have to provide some information. So we will be able to continue working on that. I spoke to Ross Karp. He had mentioned about qualifying for some things in our program, our RFP. They will review it. They already have somebody from CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Program, who said they, once we get closer with it, to have them review the RFP, because they will let us know whether if there's anything in it that they see that looks like it could preclude us from funding opportunities. And the state will do the same thing. So once we get nearer, which on Thursday, Community Housing Board is meeting to go over the current draft, So we just want to make sure that we don't do something locally that impacts us later for possible funding. Anything else that's really pertinent to? Yeah, that's it. For capital planning and grants committee meeting that we met last week, the Ferry flood mitigation work is, professional services work is going on. From the dishes, he checks in with us once a month to just make sure that we're on track as far as where we stand with the grant and reimbursement. So we're getting to a point where we can start submitting some bills to them to get reimbursed on what we've expended with the engineering firm that we're working with. Ram Island road raising field work is in progress for doing the surveys. We're going to add West Neck Road so that we get height elevations. So this is in anticipation of what it would entail to actually raise the causeway so that we can get out there safely in storms. The short-term solution obviously being the high water rescue vehicle, which will be coming to us with the capital plan budget.
So they're doing both, you're doing both the Causeway and West Neck Road around the bay, West Neck Bay?
Yes, because I met with the Harborview Acres Homeowners Association last month. And one of the concerns is that, they get stranded with flooding. And it's funny because when I drive around the island after storms, I will go down West Neck Road and then I get to the part where I can't cross and I don't go any further. I've never doubled back around to see that the other side before the entrance up into that area is also getting flooded. So yeah, they're a little bit trapped. Liz Hanley joined the meeting for a short period of time just to talk about community housing and the block grants that are available out there. So we went over the timeline and what kind of requests that we can make. So we're working on that. ADA compliance at PD and Justice Court. We've got drawings for PD back. Where are we? Just scroll too far. And then when we get the Justice Court drawings back, we'll go to the town, we'll come back to the town board in January to discuss next steps, but at least we'll have design drawings done and we can start to price out what the project could look, cost, and then back to the grants committee to find us money to do some of this. But there is more ADA money happening. The EMS building we had in the budget that to do the front of the building because it's so tight with the length of the length and the width of the ambulances themselves. So we had put money into the budget. I think it was 90,000. The bids came back at a higher price. I don't know if I want to say because we may go back out to bid, so I better not quote that. So we may end up doing something where we do a short-term fix because it's finding extra money is difficult right now. And there was something called the burn box, which we had money in to just do a little bit of looking at design work. So PW Grosser is working on that. What kind of permitting questions there are with the state, if there's quality questions, if we have for approval. So they're just moving ahead with that. So that would be something where we evaluate whether or not a burn box down at the recycling center to do, to like condense some of our, wood chips or whatever, brush. We're kind of a good test pilot for the county to sort of look at. So we'll see how it goes because we're kind of self-contained and don't have as easy access to other places. Mm-hmm. It could be an interesting.
What is the bird box?
The stuff goes in, gets fired down to ash, and then it doesn't, that's the emissions questions that has to be answered. It's supposed to be mostly all self-contained, but there is some sort of emissions that come out. So that's one of the environmental questions that is being looked into.
Most of them have pretty advanced scrubbers that clean the emissions so that you're not actually releasing any pollutants. So it really depends on the type of box and technology that's
used.
Yeah, what are the restrictions as to what goes into the burn box?
That would be part of it too. I mean, we're looking to use it just for the the brush and leaves waste that we take in, not for C and D and that kind of thing. Up Island, they use them for C and D and all kinds of stuff, but that's not what we're looking to do. We're just looking to help manage our
Small.
small, like our tree trimmings, all that stuff that really builds up and
Chip
takes
it.
up so much space.
And once it's shipped, isn't it available to people to take as mulch or?
Yeah, but they just don't take as much as we create.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a fire hazard and it self-ignites in the middle of the
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah. Yes, spontaneous combustion.
Exactly, spontaneous combustion is a thing.
On the bike lane for 114, Ken got a letter back from the state. They are studying what can be done there, but there's no money in the state budget for expanding the shoulder. But they'll continue to pitch it so that when funding becomes available, we can apply. So it's not off the table. The minor stuff about reimbursements, I'm skipping over. We're ready to submit for reimbursements on various grants, but. Yeah, that's it. And that's all that I had.
I have one more thing. So there are some homeowners around Manana Creek and West Neck Creek that might be happy to hear that the county is going to start their dredging sometime in the fall for the Manana Creek and the West Neck Creek area. We don't have details yet, so when Joe gets those, he'll fill us in on exactly what days and what areas they're gonna be dredging, but we did get the go-ahead that they're gonna do it this year. Because that's always the question is, well, when are they gonna do it? I know Manana Creek has been waiting for like 2 years or 3 years to get the dredging done there.
How far will they go?
And we got, well, that's the other question.
That's a
we
big,
got.
yeah.
But we did get notified that they will be doing it this year, so that will
That's
probably
great.
make somebody happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're done with reports, we can now adjourn the work session so that we can go into a special meeting. So you've got something for us to sign. We have one resolution. Be it resolved, Pitcher Lil Carter is hereby appointed to serve as provisional police officer retroactive to August 18th, 2024. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to leave the special meeting.
I make a motion? Second?
Second.
I don't know.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we're back in the work session, and we are going to leave the work session to go into, to go into executive session for contract negotiations and the employment history of an employee. So we'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.